On this episode of the Haunted Objects Podcast.
If I could start fires with my mind?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. What are you talking about?
But you have to like learn how to do it. Like you'd accidentally like, oh,
No, dude, I'd be driving down the highway just like looking at stuff going, you know, all those big like bales of hay that you see on the field? I'd just be popping those suckers off.
From deep inside the mysterious archives of the Newkirk Museum of the Paranormal, it's the Haunted Objects Podcast.
Do I have any interior decorating choices that you don't enjoy?
Yes.
I already knew the answer to that.
I know.
Like?
Yes, we have crossover, thankfully, sure. And then we have two very different ideas. And so the joke that I always make is I don't want to live in an alien house.
She says it all the time, but this is the thing. It was harder when we lived in an apartment.
Sure.
And everything had to go somewhere. We run a museum.
Yeah.
Now we have a house.
Yeah.
And there's only like an alien room. One of the guest bedrooms is alien themed.
I'm looking at Connor. I'm like, Connor.
There's
like,
a
I'm
lot of
staying
stuff
out of it.
everywhere.
Yeah.
You remember when he went to Michael's and he came back with 30 framed prints?
Yes, I do.
Of different
aliens,
different alien pictures.
I do.
I'm in the alien room.
You
are. What is it like sleeping with a bust of Whitley Strieber's alien staring at you?
There's a lot of eyes in that room. I saw one in the reflection of the window, and it scared the crap out of me.
God. Yeah, we definitely have. We take separate roads at a certain point.
Where do you think they diverge?
I think that, I don't know, like maybe you just go off on your own road.
Come on.
I'm on the main. See, okay, so obviously, like, I'm a very big fan. I love vintage things. I love the 70s. I love, the joke is I would live in a house with, a shag carpet and, a conversation pit and orange. I love carpet. I love everything that has to do with the 70s and the 60s. So that's kind of where my interests lie. And I think that yours are there, too. But then you just go off on an alien road.
I mean, there's
or like a, you know
Bigfoot.
What I mean.
There's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
It's not just okay. Well, let's get more specific then. Is there any art of mine that you find?
There is one Bigfoot ashtray
Bigfoot
that
ashtray.
I hate more than anything on the planet.
No, it's cool.
I literally hide it all the time.
It's the shape. It's
cool.
An actual Bigfoot print, and it was from the Oregon Bigfoot boat regatta. It's the third place prize. It's so cool.
Thing.
It's from 72.
Here's the thing. Every part of that on paper sounds incredible, and when you see it in real life, it's a brown blob that you can't figure out what it is.
It's not true.
Hideous. It's ugly, and you know it.
Well, maybe I like a little bit of kitsch.
I like kitsch.
What do you think about painting we have hanging here in the office?
These paintings specifically, I have a very different opinion about than you do. I think I actively said I don't want them in the house.
And we only have a few.
We have 3 of them. 4 of them, I think, at this point. The time this airs, we will have 4 of them.
Do you get nervous about them?
I do get nervous about them.
Why?
Because I have an incredibly vivid memory of watching an Unsolved Mysteries segment about these paintings and being traumatized for life. They're scary.
They are kind of scary.
They're so scary.
Yeah. Do you think we shouldn't have them hanging on?
Yes. I literally walk past. If I see one, I walk past and I'm like, hello, this is nice to meet you. I'm polite to them because I'm scared. Being held hostage by paintings in my own home. Hello.
We have a lot of haunted paintings.
Yeah, but
these ones are...
These ones are associated with my childhood fears of Robert Stack going, you'll die if you have these. It's so terrifying.
Was there actually an Unsolved Mysteries episode?
I don't know.
It
maybe wasn't an Unsolved Mysteries thing, but it was it was one of those kinds of shows from the early 90s.
Yeah.
And I was watching it probably at 8 o'clock at night, waiting for the X-Files to come on. And I was like, holy shit, that's a fucking real thing. I was scared. I was actively scared.
Well, you may have good reason to be scared.
Cool.
Today, we're going to be talking about probably, I would argue, the scariest paintings that have ever hit the mainstream. Scary because They're kind of weird and tacky looking,
They
for
are.
one. They're not really... You kind of have to ask questions about anyone who has one of these hanging in their home.
Yeah. Unironically.
Ironically.
Yeah.
But also scary because it might burn your house down. Today we're talking about the crying boy curse.
In the 1980s, a wave of house fires swept across England, leaving puzzled investigators scratching their heads. In each incident, the interior of the home was charred and destroyed, but one particular item remained unscathed: an unsettling painting of a weeping boy. The eerie pattern continued to repeat itself, with dozens of the same paintings surviving infernos. Rumors began to swirl that those who owned a crying boy painting were cursed. Some claimed that each canvas was imbued with the spirit of a young boy who had died tragically, while others suggested that the artist himself had made a deal with the devil. Could it be that these paintings are truly cursed? Or is the flame-scorched history of the crying boy a case of mass hysteria and superstition? The answer may lie in the true identity of the painting's artist, a well-guarded secret until now.
I feel that this is an unfair scenario because I want to give an honest opinion, but I'm scared of these fucking paintings. I'm scared of these paintings.
You might be more scared by the end of the episode.
This is the thing, though. I feel like I feel very uncomfortable, and I feel like I don't get to be honest because I'm too scared these fuckers are going to burn the house down. Like, I'm scared of them.
Well, you know, you can always say it in a way and then kind of wink at the,
No,
camera.
they can tell.
Can they tell?
Yes.
Why don't you describe for our audio listeners?
Yeah.
Give a description. I'm going to hand you this other crying boy.
So here's the thing. First, I'd like to say to people, why were y'all out here putting crying pictures of toddlers on your wall? Because that, to me, is the strangest, weirdest thing. Like, and I should, for all intents and purposes, like this because it's very, like, this is velvet. And it's gold. This is literally everything I love about this era of like art.
Well, you love crying children too.
And I hate crying children.
Well,
Sorry,
you
I'm sorry. I like crying children. I like.
You like making children cry.
I do like to make children cry. That's true. And collecting their tears in jars to use for spells. But I honestly like. It's so strange that anyone on the planet would have wanted to hang a painting of someone's crying child on their wall. It's weird.
Describe
so weird.
it. Describe it for the audio.
So the one I'm holding right now is a little tiny boy, and he is got a little jumper on, and he has really cool hair from the 60s or something. I don't know. He's a nice guy, and I'm scared of him. And he's crying. He's just it's a miserable looking crying child. That's what it is.
What do you think he's crying about?
Probably
from his expression.
I don't know. Do you know what it makes me think of?
Huh.
Have you ever seen the movie Witches?
Yeah.
So there's a scene at the beginning of the movie Witches where there's a painting and one of the evil witches like traps a little girl inside the painting.
I was thinking the same thing.
And every single day she moves to a different spot in the painting. So there's a little house, and one day she's like looking out the window. The next day she's standing on the front lawn, and the people who own the painting are like her parents,
Yeah.
and they're like, we can't destroy. Like, we need to keep it. Like, we got to get her out of this painting. But she grows up, like she ages every day, every year, and then one day she's just not in the painting anymore. What if these f***ing things all disappear from the paintings one day?
I mean, if we were living in a movie,
Or what if they smile? That's f***ing worse.
we'll keep an eye on them.
I'm so scared.
If we were living in a movie,
Yeah.
these would all be serial killers' victims.
Yeah, that's true. What if they are, though?
Maybe. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to do our best anyway, to figure out all the mysteries around the crying boy paintings.
Yeah. So like the one detail that I think is weird that I think we can talk about right out of the gate is the fact they're not all the same boy.
No, there's a lot of boys.
Which makes I think these
and
even
girls.
weirder. Because, like, if you're not watching the video right now, you'll see, like, 2 totally different people in these paintings.
And
so
the one hanging on the wall is the third completely different.
It's so creepy. It's just so creepy. There's something so eerie and creepy about it.
And they're prints, too.
These are
They're
prints,
prints,
yeah.
And they're different sizes. Like, the ones you have here are, like, 12 by 16, but they came a lot larger.
Yeah.
Like, you have the third one that you have is, like, too big to, like, take down off the wall for this.
Yeah.
So, they are very distressing.
Well, let's set the mood here a little bit since we're going to be talking about mysterious fires. Let's put some candles up here.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a good idea?
No.
We love tempting fate.
No.
Listen, subscribe to the podcast if you haven't, just in
Yeah.
case we burn this thing
Go
down.
for it.
We're going to
Give us
burn
a-
this mother down.
Like and subscribe, kids. That was good.
Because it's fun to tempt fate, but not really. I have a fire extinguisher.
It's a good idea.
Just in case. Because we're not going to be mean about the paintings. I have no desire to ever hurt a haunted object's feelings.
No.
But just in case. You never know. How were you familiar? You were familiar with the Crying Boy legend as a kid.
The Crying Boy paintings are very likely the first time I was like, oh, wait, a thing can be haunted? That's scary. Like that, I think probably a lot of people my age would say the same thing.
Yeah. What about you guys? Were you guys familiar much with the Crying Boy legend before this episode?
No, not me either.
No.
I think this skipped my generation
Really?
as a
Yeah.
legend.
It kind of died off, I think, in like the 90s. You didn't hear much about it after that. I think it's just because, I don't know, it feels kind of old-fashioned at this point, but
Yeah,
the legend around it is so scary.
it is.
It's popped up once or twice. There's a few TV shows that it's popped up on.
Mhm.
We'll talk about those a bit today. The legend of the Crying Boy paintings really begins in the mid-'80s. 1985, the Sun newspaper, notorious tabloid, known for hard-hitting journalism
a rag.
about all of your favorite celebrities, all the worst things they are going through. The Sun prints an article titled Tears for Fears, the portrait that firemen claim is cursed. The reason that they printed this article is because they had found this story about a couple in northern England whose home had a mysterious fire, and the only thing that was untouched was one of these Crying Boy paintings that had been hanging on the wall.
If you saw something like that,
Well, I mean, it's
I'd be like,
a disturbing thought.
I'd be like, there's a human spirit in that painting. And you couldn't convince me otherwise. I'd be like, there's a demonic human spirit.
The couple's name was Ron and May Hall.
Yes.
Ron and May Hall, they came home. They see that everything's destroyed except for this painting.
Yeah.
Ron calls his brother, Peter. His brother's a firefighter. And he shows his brother the damage. His brother, obviously unnerved by the fact that everything's gone except for this painting.
Yeah.
He goes and he starts talking to his coworkers at the fire department. One of his coworkers had been keeping track of house fires and realized that there had been almost 50 other house fires where these paintings existed on the wall and were untouched by the fire. The Sun finds out about this.
Yes.
And is like, oh my God, there've been all of these different fires that are happening. This painting must be cursed. So they run this story. And in the story, talk about how there are, I don't know, what was it, 50,000 of these prints
Something
all
like
over
that.
England?
Yeah. What are you doing, England? Why? Who is buying? Like, who was like, this is the year 1985. Let's get a whole ass load of just crying pictures of children and hang them. It's such a weird choice.
I want to read part of this Sun article because this is really where all of this originates, is in this Sun piece.
What if it's the crying boys convincing these people to buy these paintings and put them on their walls?
Maybe.
Do you know what I mean? What if they're like hypnotizing people and they're like, you definitely want us on your walls?
This is from September 4th, 1985. This was in the Sun. And the title is Blazing Curse of the Crying Boy. Heartbroken, May and Ron Hall were blaming the curse of the crying boy yesterday after their home of 27 years was wrecked by fire. The couple had laughed off warnings that there was a jinx on the picture of a tot with tears running down his face. Ron's fireman brother Peter told him he and his mates had seen the print too often in houses where there had been blazes. And he claimed the popular picture, an estimated 50,000, have been sold in Britain, and they always seemed to survive the flames. May, 53, and 59-year-old Ron refused to worry, but the warning came true when a fire broke out at their terraced council home in Swallownest, South Yorks. The blaze, which started in a chip pan and gutted the kitchen, destroyed the front room furniture. The couple's son, David, 25, burnt his hands fighting flames. But the 2-foot by 1-foot picture signed G. Brigolin didn't suffer the smoke damage, even though it was in the lounge. May said, quote, "There's no way a picture will come through our door again. Peter told us he wouldn't have had the picture in the house, and neither would his friends at the fire station. Yesterday, the couple's son-in-law, Ian Goodwin, put his foot through the gold frame print. He said, I would have burned it if I'd had some terps."
The terps.
That's got to be like weird British slang for turpentine, right?
I don't know.
You don't need turpentine to light it on fire. That's the weirdest. All right.
We may have a challenging time with this episode in some of the British slang.
Yes, there is a lot of it.
So bear with us, Brits. I'm sorry if we're not pronouncing things right.
Tot with tears is the most disgusting alliteration I've ever heard of. It's so gross sounding. Tot with tears.
They called their crazy nephew Ian to come in and kick you.
Yeah. Somebody call Ian. Get Ian in here. I think it's interesting, first of all, that there seems to be they had sort of an awareness of weirdness around the painting before even putting it in the house.
Yeah, who warned them?
I don't know. It must have been like, I wonder if like it
someone with taste.
Yeah, someone was like, "Don't put that hideous thing on your wall."
I mean, it's weird, right?
It's
like,
weird.
If you went to a friend's house as a kid and they had one of these hanging on the wall.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what the equivalent of it is, and the only thing I can think about is that, and I don't want people to get mad because I'm going to say it, but there's this picture of like a cow that is always on, like you can buy it at Target. It's like a black and white cow, like a Highland cow. And people, it's huge.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
It's got like horns and stuff,
Yeah.
like people buy it and hang it on their walls, and it just doesn't make any sense. Like, why are you putting a picture of a cow on your wall? Why are you putting a painting of crying children on your walls? That's weird.
We were talking about this last night, and I think that the American equivalent of the crying boy paintings, when it comes to like something that's of questionable taste, maybe, is ironically enough the Weary Willie paintings of like the quote unquote hobo clowns.
Yeah,
that a lot of Americans had in their homes.
A lot of people have them, like little tchotchkes of them. Like yes, it's weird. It's really I don't get it.
I don't understand it either. But
says the guy who has a friggin' disgusting ashtray of a Bigfoot foot. He's like, hey, I don't get that.
Here's the thing. I got a good excuse. I've got a good excuse.
Okay.
I have a museum dedicated to weird stuff.
Oh.
So I can have the stuff and my taste doesn't need to be questioned. Do you hear me?
I'm questioning it.
This Sun story runs. And immediately all of these unassuming Brits start to look at their walls.
And go, shit.
And they're like, oh, shit.
We gotta get this out of here.
What are we going to do?
Yeah.
And
so like a little like bit of like, hype was happening at that point. And people were like, wait a second. I bought one of those. I'm starting to lean more towards the hypnosis thing. The idea that these paintings are like hypnotizing people into buying them them on their walls.
They claim 50,000 homes.
But if it's like some mass like space monster that is like real control their mind, like it's like connecting to all these people in England.
Maybe.
Part of it is like the area too, right?
Yes.
Right.
So that's an important context to have because I found a little bit of explanation there.
Yeah.
But I still don't understand why it's in your house.
So where a lot of these paintings were found were in northern England.
Yes.
A lot of the like working class folks live up north.
Yes. My family come from Eastbourne, which is the southern point of England.
Oh, listen to you.
It's a beach town. But my other family members come from Scotland, so way north.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a difference between both parts of the country. for sure.
There's a few reasons why maybe people who lived in northern England were interested in this type of art. It's kind of depressing.
It's a little bit depressing, yeah.
And, I mean, the Britain in that time period
absolutely
was kind of the opposite of where we were in the United States.
It absolutely was.
The economy wasn't doing very well over there.
No.
Northern England is full of a lot of miners live up there. So it's hard work. It's tough work. People were depressed. Maybe the crying boys spoke to how these people were feeling at the time.
So there's like almost a sense then it's a bit of a reflection on where the country was at, specifically the northern part of the country at that point in time. People probably didn't really want to be hanging happy things on their walls. They were going through, financial difficulties. It was hard. It was a hard time to be in that part of the country. And what's better than that? Hang some crying kids on your wall. It's a reflection of what you were feeling on the inside.
The paintings were cheap.
They were cheap.
They were mass-produced. They were basically the Highland cow
They
painting
were the
you're talking
Highland
about
cow.
of the time period.
The Target Highland cow.
You could go to their version and buy one of these things. It's
Literally.
ready-made art.
Yes.
So there's a few things, maybe it was a commentary on the post-World War II era.
Sure.
It's easy to hang that on the wall and be like, I understand, child. I understand.
And I mean, what is it, if anything, then like a depiction of the saddened or lost innocence in childhood and the sense of kind of playfulness and I mean, it makes sense that would be a reflection of what was going on in people's minds at that point in time.
I also think we're being generous because it's
We
definitely a
are.
very weird thing.
It's still
no
kind
matter
of
what.
weird. It's still weird.
I don't know.
It's scary.
It's a stranger's kid too.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
I can understand mass-made landscapes or Thomas Kincaid photos or something. like we have here,
Right.
but it's like, what's going on? You don't even know this kid.
Do you know what would
Well,
be?
And it's
It would be, I think it's worse if you have a painting of your own
I
child
literally was
Crying.
just thinking
Crying?
that.
in your house.
I was like, how much weirder would it be if you walked into someone's house and they just had photos or paintings of their kids crying? You'd be like, Connor, Michelle, just crying. Like that would be so weird, but also kind of hilarious. I actually kind of like that idea.
I do too. Maybe we could have some oil paintings commissioned of all of us in the style of Crying Boys.
What if we do it of us as children?
I would love that
Can
to
we
no
do
end.
some can we get some paintings of us as kids crying?
If there's anyone listening who's an oil painter
Yeah.
and you want a commission,
Yeah, we will
I would
happily do
love
that.
that. And then we know what we'll do. We'll focus all of our negative energy. Every time I'm crying, I'm going to go up to it and I'm going to look at it and I'm going to hold it. And then I'm going to put all of my negativity into that painting until it becomes haunted.
No, why would you do that?
And then we're going to make prints. We're going to make 50,000 prints and we're going to send them to our
Burn
listeners.
people's houses down.
And then you guys can take part in this experiment and tell us whether your house feels incredibly depressed or not.
That's an awful idea.
I love it.
don't like it at all.
Why do you think people were hanging these things in their houses, guys? What's the deal?
the best response that I have is it sounds like a really depressing place. And so it just blended in with the walls and the gray skies.
Yeah,
and
they're
the
not very
smog
colorful
from the
paintings.
mine
No.
It's just
behind it.
raining all the time in England too.
Gosh,
Yeah.
Just it's very it's a reflection of it, I think.
I guess.
just a really weird bandwagon to jump on.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
your cool neighbor got one and then
Yeah.
everybody else got one.
Little edgy, little emo.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got, My Chemical Romance t-shirts we've worn on this podcast. Is it the 1980s version?
That's fair.
Is it Nightmare Before Christmas? Maybe.
Yeah.
But there's, I still, the more that you scan through and you see them, there's so many.
Yeah.
And you can't help but wonder what's going on in these pictures.
It's weird.
The first article by The Sun that starts to cause all of this panic mentions that Ron's brother, Peter, was a firefighter.
Yes.
Peter's station officer at their fire station, his name was Alan Wilkinson.
Yeah.
He'd had 33 years of experience fighting fires, and he had personally logged 50 fires dating back to 1973. So over 10 years, he'd been tracking these fires, and each of them included a crying boy painting that survived and appeared untouched by the flames.
Can you imagine this guy I can't even, like, it's so funny. I keep picturing going like, you don't understand.
Rust Cole in True Detective.
Literally a Rust Cole character. This is a movie. Literally a Rust Cole character who's like tracking down why these paintings are setting on fire. No one's listening to him. Like, here's the thing. He tracked 55 of those fucking things, and nobody was like, that's kind of weird. It took up to 55 for them to be like, we need to do something about this. Maybe there's something weird going on here.
We've got a picture of the firehouse that he used to work at.
Oh, there we go. Look at that.
That's really cool.
An old firehouse. That's very funny. Is this a website dedicated to just fire stations?
In the UK.
It's very specific.
Kevin Hale.
So is it... Wow. Oh, so that's what it looks like now.
/UK. Yeah, maybe it's like a bike shop now.
I see. Wow, so it's not even there anymore.
Mm-hmm. Somewhere in this building, this man had a chalkboard that he flipped over, and there was a map on the back.
Yeah, you're right. Here's the other weird thing about Alan. By all accounts, Alan was not superstitious. Alan was not a guy who would be having, like, here's a pinboard of all of these different things.
Which is why it took him 55 fires to really believe something weird was going on. He's like, maybe just one more. I'll believe it in one more.
Well, this is the thing. Alan wasn't superstitious, and he did every one of those fires, at least up until this one. He was like, it was caused by human error.
Sure.
But I can't explain why these paintings are not being touched by the fire. This is weird. It's genuinely weird.
Because here's the thing, we have two layers of weirdness going on here, both of which possibly can be explained. The first one being, why does every one of these houses have these paintings in them? One. Two, why is the painting the only thing that's not getting burned?
Right.
Right? Because that's still, like, it's weird. It's still weird that
it gets
so many
weirder.
People.
Alan might not have been superstitious at the time, but after the Sun article came out and it started getting a lot of press, people started to give Alan crying boy paintings as a joke.
This is my worst fear, that after this episode, that's what's going to happen.
They were trying to hang them in the fire station, but the superiors ordered them removed.
Wow.
Said, no, I don't want these in here. Get rid of them. And the same day they had them removed, a fire got started in their kitchen that burned their lunch. So they might not have been superstitious before, but maybe now he is.
See, there's, like, honestly, even just a part of me that's nervous about, like, talking. I'm not even joking. Like, I'm 100% serious. There's part of me that's like, because that's a genuine fear of mine, is like some kind of a fire.
Well, when you give a lot of attention to something, it seems, we know as paranormal researchers, you can probably haunt an object pretty easy. We've done experiments before.
I hope that everyone listening to this episode right now just sends us very good non-fiery energy, or I'll burn all your houses down too.
Jesus Christ.
Allegedly.
Oh, my God.
It's going to be a curse of haunted objects.
I'm going to be like Daenerys Targaryen.
I'm going to be subpoenaed.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't want to be subpoenaed.
Jeez.
Oh, my God. I'm just kidding.
So Dana's going to burn your houses down.
Maybe.
Alan ends up retiring.
Yeah.
And at his retirement party, everyone tries to give him crying boy paintings. It's like that thing, it's that one stupid thing you do and then you have that nickname for the rest of your life. Like, this guy was the crying boy guy.
Yeah, he, instead of getting those walkers that they give them people when they retire with, like, clown honkers on them. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know what you're talking about.
In movies, whenever in the 50s, whenever somebody's like, or in the 80s, whenever in a movie, whenever someone's retiring, they're like, "Here's a walker," and they like, because
like an over the hill kind of joke
with like those womp womp. They were like, "Let's give him these horrible, scary paintings instead."
He refused to accept them.
I don't blame him.
He, like, even as a joke, he wouldn't accept them.
Yeah.
So maybe old Alan Wilkerson decided that there's something to the curse of the crying boy. It wasn't just Alan that was affected by the curse of the crying boy. Rumors started to spread even beyond the Sun because, of course, it's out there.
Yeah.
People are noticing that they have these things. And then other articles start to come up.
Of course.
From other people who have been cursed by the crying boy paintings. Jane McCutcheon, who had hung the print in her living room in the 80s. She was a mother of 2 and was cleaning her kitchen when she found that her handmade drapes, blinds, and curtains were suddenly ablaze. Her family escaped alive, but her home had been destroyed.
My God.
Except for a single painting hung in her living room of the crying boy.
Oh, here's another one. Some spoke of watching their painting swing from side to side on its own. Others claimed terrible luck once hung in their homes, and a few even claimed it may have killed their family members.
Oh my God.
That escalated.
It's gone from burning people's houses down to actually killing people
It's
now.
murdering people now.
Little boys crawling out of the...
Oh, like the ring.
The ring.
The legend has gone from just burning your house down to some people allegedly being killed by this curse.
Yep, so it's growing and it's evolving.
Here's a good one. This is 1985. This is October 29th. So this is a month after the Sun article came out.
And a Halloween story.
Oh, it is a Halloween story,
yeah.
the 29th of October. The Liverpool Echo reported the headline, "Crying Boy Sees Man Catch Fire." So now people are catching fire.
Yeah.
Brian Davenport was, quote, linking up a camping gas lamp when gas leaked from the cylinder, igniting a fire in the room and setting him ablaze.
Wait, he was doing this in a room in his house?
I mean, so
okay.
on the wall watching is a crying boy painting
Yeah.
as this man catches fire. He's fortunate enough that he had a friend there who went and got a bucket of water, tossed it on him, got rid of the fire.
I like this one from November 1st, 1985.
So this is just 3 days later.
3 days later, again, the same Liverpool Echo reports that a, quote, jobless duo had saved a mother and 3 children from a house fire. Hearing them yell for help, they helped the children and then their mother out of the second-floor bedroom window and onto the ground safely. Some of the house and their belongings survived the fire, including 2 crying boy paintings. So now we have 2 paintings.
Let's get back to the painting in a second. Hold on, just rewind for a second.
I know exactly where you're going.
The headline of this article.
It seems a little harsh considering they saved people's lives.
Jobless duo.
Like, why would you call them that?
You could have said heroes.
Yeah, heroes would be suffice, I think.
Can you imagine? It's like someone finding like the worst piece of bad luck that you've had lately.
Yes. Yeah, and they're like, you know what it sounds like to me? It feels like this article was written by someone who had a pre-existing relationship with one of the jobless duo, and we're like,
yes,
they were pissed, and they were just like, I'm not going to make him sound like a hero. Like,
herpes survivor saves woman and children from house fire.
Like, man who once shit his pants
in 3rd grade.
Yeah, like it's so fucking mean. That's so unnecessary.
And we're making fun of the Sun in the Liverpool Echo.
The Liverpool Echo,
saying jobless duo.
The only reason they were able to save these people is because they were jobless.
Exactly.
They're
2
not
in
at
the
work.
afternoon.
Exactly. There's some beef here.
Let that be a lesson to you, listeners. Don't get jobs.
And the picture they took of his head was like,
oh, it's so unflattering.
A little, and he's standing there, and he's like, "You need to step back at all." He's like, "No, it's fine."
No, he's like, "Is that a wide-angle lens?" Yeah, don't worry about it.
This article was 100% written by this man's ex-wife. Like, no doubt.
Well, it doesn't stop there. There continue to be newspaper articles all over the country for years after this, talking about the people who've been cursed by these paintings. And, a lot of them have to do with fire. Here's one from 1990. The Caterham Mirror reports that the UK band Objida it sounds like something like an old person suffers from.
It sounds like an STD.
My objitis flaring up.
I feel like you got to put more of an A in the like Objada.
Objada?
The Jida part is where it's really.
That's where it's throwing.
Whatever this band is called, Objada. We should have looked up how to pronounce this.
I mean, it's hard to find much about this band anymore.
You know what Objada sounds like? A reggae jam band. Right? Yeah. That's not what they look like, but
it's a bunch of English people playing like synths and acoustic guitars.
Yes. This band had a brush with the Crying Boy curse. They were in the studio putting last touches on a track called Crying Boy Love will never find you.
Why? Love will never find
Love
you?
will never find you. I mean, it's been 5 years since this legend has been a thing. Of course, it's inspired the artists.
You're tempting it by being love will never find you, small crying child.
After they locked the studio up for the night, they were alerted by smoke alarms to a mystery blaze. And while the blaze was extinguished before there was any serious damage, their master tapes were burned.
Oh my God.
So the recording was charred. They had to re-record the song, and it appeared on their album, Circus Time for Hearts. I don't know. I mean, hey, clowns, man. Here's one of the lyrics. He thinks about her all the time, immortalized in a side of a frame, crying boy.
What?
I don't know. Maybe they had their own backstory for why the boy was crying. He was missing a girl, I guess.
Crying boy.
I have...
Like an
Kind of what
island
it sounds
boy
like.
does.
We should do a cover of the song.
Of the Island Boy song.
No, of the crying boy.
Island boy.
I'm a crying boy. I am a crying boy.
Don't make fun of these paintings.
You guys keep talking. I'll be back in just a second.
Oh God.
I literally no idea what's about to happen.
Well,
Are we going to talk about
worry
the
about
modern day?
here's the thing. That was in the
evolution of
90s.
this?
That last story we talked about happened in the 90s.
Go ahead and let Connor.
You can go ahead and... Oh God, where's Connor going? Connor's leaving the booth.
He's leaving.
He's out. He's free.
He's gone.
He said he had a surprise for this
Connor's
episode.
gonna come down in like one of those suits that like fire stuntmen wear and set himself on fire.
He's gonna come in on fire.
Yeah, just bust through the door.
The curse is true.
It's real.
Well, in the modern day,
Yes.
we still occasionally hear about the crying boy curse.
Yeah.
The most trustworthy source that anyone has heard the crying boy curse story from in the modern day has been on Zach Bagans' show Deadly Possessions.
You're definitely the most trustworthy source.
World's greatest ghost hunter, Zach Bagans, in this
Universe's greatest
planet, universe, this reality's greatest
ghost hunter.
Hunter. Zach Bagans had a show called Deadly Possessions, which was all about the haunted objects in his museum out in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Season 1, Episode 5 of Deadly Possessions, Zach receives a crying boy painting from a woman who actually experienced the curse herself.
Mm-hmm.
She said that after she got the painting, she was working on a write-up about it. She was kind of like a reseller, like an eBay seller. And she was taking photos, writing about it, and the upstairs room in her house caught fire as she was sitting there thinking about how ugly this was.
Yeah. Can I add a detail, though, to this? Because I did watch this. She also left some candles burning in her room.
Not important.
With a cat.
Nah, they gloss over that. It's no big deal.
The cat was what alerted her to the fire because this poor animal was throwing its body against the door trying to escape the room that was on fire because it probably knocked a tea light over. Because it's a fucking cat.
You saying you don't trust Zach Bagans? We want to just establish the fact that even today, people are still superstitious about the crying boy curse.
Yeah.
It's something that... Superstitious?
All right.
What?
Superstition Showdown.
What is happening?
What is this?
It fell off.
His mustache fell off. What are you doing?
Hello, everybody.
I don't even know what you look. I am scared right now.
Hi. And welcome to Superstition Showdown.
Oh, no.
What is happening?
As always, I'm your host. As always, I'll be your host.
Oh my God.
My name is Stition, and we are here today with today's contestants. Let's meet our contestants. First up, today's episode of Superstition Showdown.
It just keeps falling off. Oh my God, you put it on backwards.
It said it was a Geppetto wig, but it's like
Yeah.
Pete. It's like Pete Wentz.
You do look a little emo.
You look exactly like my grandpa. I'm going to show you a picture after this.
Did your grandpa have the shirt?
Well, he was a minister, and occasionally he did like object lessons with yo-yos inspired by the Smothers Brothers. So, yes.
This is what the host of Superstition Showdown wears. I don't know what to tell you.
Stition, right?
Yes, Stition is here, everybody. It's time for our Superstition Showdown. Okay.
I love it. It's on the microphone. What the?
Today's contestants are, is it pronounced Greg?
That's correct.
Greg and Dana
Yes.
Newkirk.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm a little bit afraid of you right
We're
now.
gonna get to know our contestants. It says here on my card, let's see. Dana, you once took a fall in front of a group of male models. Is that true?
Yes, I did. And I was 14, and it was the worst day of my life.
Okay. Thank you for that. And Greg, you spent some time as an amateur wrestler. Have you been an amateur wrestler in your life at some point?
The tape is also now falling off.
I was, I was part of the TWF, the Trampoline Wrestling Federation. Jason Gowan, my friend Jason Gowan, drafted me and my friend Matt Olkins into it. And our shtick was, we were heels, which means bad guys. And so our shtick was exclusively wrestling 8-year-olds and absolutely beating the out of them.
Oh my God.
Okay. Should have had the producers check those facts a little bit better. But here we are. Are you ready to play Superstition Showdown?
I guess.
All right. You all have seen Superstition Showdown, of course, so I don't know if I need to go over the rules.
Of course we have.
Here is how we're going to play, just for those who are watching at home. So Superstition Showdown is going to take place in 2 quick rounds. The first round is going to be about good luck superstitions. The next round can be about bad luck superstitions.
Okay.
Now, I want you to think of popular good luck and bad luck superstitions. Well, of course, we're going to open the round with a question. If you reach under your desks, there are 2 answer bells.
Wait,
This is what these bells were for?
Where's the bell? Oh my God, there's a bell under here.
Okay, so go ahead and grab your answer bells. All right. And the first person to correctly answer this question is going to be able to begin the round, and you can guess as many as you can sweep through the category. Of course, you do get points, and we have our wonderful scorekeeper, Keelin, here.
I can
She will
definitely
be
do math.
keeping track of your points throughout the game. All right, folks, Superstition Showdown. Here we go. Your opening question. On the first day of the month, what animal name is repeated twice in order to bring good luck?
White rabbit.
I've never heard of that.
That
in
is
my life.
correct. People say commonly in the UK, rabbit, rabbit, or white rabbit.
Oh no, I'm in trouble
on the
already.
first day of the month.
I know this. I'm gonna.
God, I'm not gonna be good at this. All right, go.
Of course, Greg, that means that you get to guess good luck superstitions. Here are our top 5 answers on the board. You have to think, based off of various articles, which ones are most commonly in the articles,
Okay,
what some of the good luck superstitions were.
got it.
Okay? So I want you to go ahead and think of one. As soon as you miss one, it's going to be Dana's chance to steal.
Okay, so any good luck superstition, we're going by popularity.
You get the most points for guessing the most popular on number 1. That's worth 5 points. And you get 1 point for the least popular, number 5.
Is this,
Got it.
Is this just Family Feud?
No.
No.
The Superstition Show.
Superstition
All right,
Showdown.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think my first one is wishing on a star.
No. That's
What?
It's like,
That's not in there.
good luck. We're doing
yeah,
good luck?
Dana, good luck. What is something that brings you good luck?
4-leaf clover, baby.
That is our number 2 answer.
Get
4-leaf
out of here.
clovers.
All
I'm
right.
robbed.
All right.
4-leaf clovers are mostly good luck because they're so dang rare.
Yes.
1 in 5,000 clovers has 4 leaves.
Wow.
And there was a lot of legends and fae and ancient Celtic traditions surrounding them.
That's a good one.
Okay. Dana, category still yours. Something that brings good luck.
A rabbit foot.
A rabbit foot was mentioned sometimes, but we don't have it on the board today.
No.
Little dark. All right, Greg,
All
what you
right.
got?
Crossing your fingers.
Crossing your fingers is something that brings you good luck, but we don't have it as one of our most popular
It's gonna be
categories.
Hard. Bup, bup, bup.
Dana, what do you think?
Getting pooped on by a bird.
Is that real?
Yeah, if you get pooped on by
Yeah,
a
I've
bird,
heard
it's
of
supposed to be
that.
good luck.
No, that's not.
Connor, do you have the most obscure things
No,
in
they're
this?
totally normal once you hear them. Would you have anything, Greg?
So, what about knocking on wood?
Knocking on wood is the number one most popular listed thing. Knocking on wood is considered lucky because in ancient cultures, mostly the Celts believed that some spirits lived within the trees and knocking on wood might call them forward.
Oh,
Okay.
that's cool.
Top 2 from the Celts.
Yeah,
Oh, look at that.
We're doing a lot.
Nice.
All right.
What about an eyelash? You know, when your eyelash pops off and you make a wish and blow it away.
No, that is not on our board today.
That's gross.
Interesting. Dana?
Is that not a thing?
I've heard of that.
And maybe we'll stay in the same vein and say like, you know those dandelion puffs that you blow? You make a wish and you blow on them. They're good luck. I don't know.
I'm
These
gonna
are
say
weird.
they're objects.
Oh, these are so
Okay.
these are things that you encounter
And one
That
is
are good luck.
that are good luck.
And one is an insect.
An insect.
Does that help at all?
Oh, interesting. Is a ladybug?
That's
Oh,
right. Ladybugs
that's
are
true.
considered good luck. Ladybugs are mostly considered good luck because they were such good luck for farmers because they protect their crops and eat some other infestation.
I love that there's
Insects.
the lore we're getting.
Right,
We're also
yeah.
getting lore.
That's right.
Okay, I feel like I'm much better at bad luck ones than good luck ones.
It's easier, I think, but we still do have 2 remaining on the category. Would you like to give up the category? Do you have anything else to guess?
Good luck. Good luck. Good luck.
Wait. I think I have one.
Horseshoe.
Oh my gosh, horseshoes is on the board. Well
I was
done.
gonna say.
Now, legend has it that in medieval times, the devil went to a blacksmith and he was putting horseshoes on his horse. And the devil said, I could walk faster if I had horseshoes on my cloven foot. Ooh. And the guy tricked him and said, all right, I'll do that. And then he dug the horseshoe into the devil's heel. The devil was in pain. And he said, I'll take this off, but only if you agree not to go in houses that have horseshoes above them.
Interesting.
That's one of the old legends. Also, it's made of iron, and that was just
Sure.
considered good luck.
What did the devil ever do?
Well, you know, some people
Why
have
be so
some
mean
people
to
have
that
beef.
guy?
Well, you know. All right, we have one more, and I'll give you a hint. It has to do with a metal as well. It's also an object that's made of metal.
Oh, is it like a lucky penny?
In a parking lot, it is a lucky
God.
penny. Good job.
A face-up penny.
Yep,
Right.
same kind of idea. Pennies are very, very valuable, considered gifts from the gods in
I think
ancient times.
Greg, you swept that one.
Well,
Unfortunately.
you know.
Dana.
Let's do a quick score check. Keelin, where are we at?
Dana has 4 points, and Greg has 11.
All right.
All right, it's time for round 2 of Superstition Showdown. All right. Superstition Showdown, of course, as always, we're going to open with a question. What is an item that is said to bring bad luck if it is brought on a fishing boat?
A woman.
No. Wow, Dana. Wow.
I panicked, all right?
A woman.
I was thinking of a redheaded woman in a cave.
You mean a mine?
Yeah. Oh, either or.
I think women on ships was also
Isn't
like
it?
yeah.
There's some sort of
They
lore
thought
about
they'd,
that.
Like, they'd bring like demons or
Our,
something.
yeah,
on their
our
boat.
wily women ways with
God.
us.
I know this one too.
Oh,
I know this
shit.
one.
We've talked about
Okay, I'll give you a hint. It's something that you might eat.
But it's a banana.
It is a banana.
It is
Bananas
banana.
not go on boats?
Yeah, they don't go on boats. It's
No
bad luck to bring them
nanners.
on boats. because and people can't quite figure out why. Maybe it's because like there would be some like spiders or snakes and banana plants on boats sometimes. But also bananas go they're unripe so quickly that boats that were transporting bananas had to travel faster, and so they didn't catch fish while they were going so fast.
Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay.
All right.
Don't bring a banana on a boat. Dana is going to begin the round, and this is bad luck superstitions.
Isn't banana boat like a
I was just thinking it's a suntan.
sunscreen?
Yeah, sun
That's
lotion.
weird.
Yeah.
I was thinking of banana hammocks. You bring those on boats?
Yeah, you definitely.
I think there's a lot of those on boats.
Yeah.
Okay. Bad luck superstitions. Dana, something that's considered bad luck.
Easy one. Black cats.
Black cats is, of course, on the board.
Oh.
I know, and it's unfounded.
Terrible.
Black cats are lovely. Adopt black cats.
Black cats are the best. Cats were considered bad luck in general because way back in the days of the Black Plague, cats would be spending a lot of time around places where rats were. And people weren't making that solid connection
Please.
that some bad things were happening in places where a lot of cats were, because that's where a lot of rats were. And so ironically, sometimes they would get rid of the cats, making the rat problem a lot worse. And then everything compounded from there.
And then everyone died.
Then those motherfuckers got what they deserved.
Yeah. Leave those cats alone.
You know that black cats are the least adopted
They
cat.
are.
You should adopt black cats. We just did.
We just did. We just adopted a black cat named Oliver. And
he's the best.
Lovely.
Adopt black cats.
Yeah.
Shout out Oliver.
Shout out Oliver. It's still me, right?
Yeah.
I have two that are in the hopper. The first one is walking under a ladder.
Walking under a ladder is the number one most common bad luck superstition. Walking under a ladder being an insult to the Trinity in a triangle.
Oh, I didn't know
is that why?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Supposedly.
The last one that I can think of is isn't breaking a mirror really bad luck? Like 7 years bad luck?
Breaking a mirror, number 2. Dana's doing really well in this category.
Oh, God.
Breaking a mirror because in ancient times, the Greeks and Romans believed that part of your soul might be inside of your reflection. And when you would break a mirror, something would be off in your soul. And it apparently took a 7-year cycle for your soul to be re-cleansed.
Wow.
Okay, what's another one? Number 13.
Number 13 is also considered unlucky. That's on the board. Of course, 12 is considered a very complete number. There's a lot of things that revolve around 12. And 13 kind of breaks that. Also, you know, in ancient Norse mythology, Loki was the last person to do something. He was the 13th one in the room. Judas was the 13th one.
Oh,
the Last Supper. So, you know, kind of grown from there.
Have you ever been in an elevator that doesn't have a 13 in it? I have.
I have. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that is weird.
Like older hotels
Yeah.
usually have that.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
a thing. It's a real thing.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay, the last one.
What's our score at? Do you have the potential to beat him here?
Oh, let's see. Hold on. I have to do math. Think while I do this. I have dyscalculia, just so everyone knows.
What is that?
I can't. It's like dyslexia for numbers.
No! Oh, God.
So give me a second.
What are the hiring policies for this game show? What?
What game show?
Superstition Showdown. Superstition Showdown.
I love the way
I-
Connor says it. It's my favorite thing ever.
Let's do a quick check-in with our scorekeeper here.
Dana right now has 17 points, and Greg is still at 11.
Can I even come back?
Oh, you can't. Good job.
Wow.
Well, we'll give you this last one, and we'll give you a real good hint. It has to do with an object and the weather.
Oh, an umbrella during a
Opening an
lightning
umbrella.
storm.
That's not right.
It's opening
Oh, God damn
It's opening an umbrella inside.
Too confident. Too confident.
That
Too- I
opening
still-
an umbrella in a lightning storm would just get you killed.
Yeah, that
I mean, I
just
guess
gets
it
you
is bad luck,
electrocuted.
right?
All right, opening an umbrella indoors.
Yep. Not supposed to open an umbrella indoors. Possibly linked to ancient Egypt and it being an insult to the sun god.
Ooh, do not insult the sun god.
Yep, there you go. All right, thank you everybody for tuning in to this edition of Superstition Showdown, brought to you by the Haunted Objects Podcast. It's your favorite show within a show. We'll come back sometime.
I thought I. Greg's joke.
I just started laughing. I started laughing because I started to think about this. Do you know that Connor has made us do this just hanging out? He has literally put together game shows just while we're hanging out.
I did not even see this underneath my desk.
Nice job.
Nice
That
job,
was
Connor.
fun.
Nice job.
Good surprise.
Yep, thanks.
Thank you, Stu. We
Thank you,
appreciate
Stu.
it.
Stu. What
Stition.
is your name?
Stition.
Oh, shit.
One of Connor's many personalities. Stu Stition, the game show host.
This episode is brought to you by the Newkirk Museum of the Paranormal Membership Program. Become a museum member and take part in live paranormal investigations. Receive Dana's Magic of the Month subscription box, access in-depth artifact case files, and gain access to hundreds of hours of exclusive content available only to members. To become a member, visit patreon.com/paramuseum.
Well, I've never been on a game show before.
Now you, neither have I.
There we go.
Nice
At
work.
first.
And I beat your ass.
Hey guys, I'm back from the bathroom. What happened?
This weird guy came in here and forced us to play a game.
Yeah, he was molting.
Oh,
Yeah, his facial hair fell off multiple times.
Uh-huh.
was he super hot?
Maybe if he was dressed like a clown,
If the clown,
he
yeah.
would have been.
I'm sure as a clown, he has a big fan base.
Oh, weird. Okay. Well, we should keep talking about the crying boy.
Well, since we're on the topic of superstitions.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's keep rolling with it.
When so many people are so superstitious about a single curse,
Yeah.
when there's a curse that's this bad, how in the world do you break it? How are people saved from this curse of the crying boy?
I don't know, but I need to know it because there's 4 of them in our house. So I would love some tips.
The same month that the crying boy article ran that got everybody stirred up, the Sun was overwhelmed with letters and calls from people who said, I have this painting. I don't know what to do. What do we do? What do we do? And the Sun could not pass up a chance for some good press. So what they did is they wrote this article.
Mm-hmm.
The crying boy strikes again. September 11th, 1985. The curse of Crying Boy Pictures struck again yesterday. Kevin Godber, 23, and his wife, Julie, 19, arrived home to find it wrecked, but found the jinxed picture undamaged. It was still hanging in the charred ruins of the council house, while the other pictures beside it were shriveled and burnt beyond recognition. By a chilling coincidence, the blaze at East Herringthorpe, near Rotherham, South Yorks... What is the deal with British addresses?
I don't know.
Everything sounds like it is in Hobbiton.
Yeah, it's all made up. Near Rotherham, South Yorks, happened just miles from the scene of another fire last month in which a crying boy painting survived intact. Since the Sun told the frightening story of that blaze at the Swallow Nest, horrified readers have reported that they, too, have been victims of the curse. They all owned prints of the weeping urchins, some from a series by Italian artist G. Brigolin. A woman in Mitcham, Surrey, claimed fire gutted her home, leaving her print undamaged. Another woman in Kilburn, North London, said she, her sister-in-law, and a friend had all suffered house fires since buying pictures. A South Yorkshire fire spokesman warned yesterday, quote, "These incidents are becoming more and more frequent. It's strange, and we have no logical explanation for it." Jobless Kevin, whose family were left with just clothes they were wearing, said yesterday.
Why are they calling him jobless? Was this a thing in the 80s? Like, did you had to be publicly embarrassed about maybe being out of work? They were like, oh, it's one of the jobless ones. You got to call him that.
Can you imagine the newspaper like throwing shade at you?
Yeah. Jobless Greg Newkirk reads a newspaper article on his podcast.
You know, what was the other one? The other article?
The Jobless Duo?
The Jobless Duo. You know, I would have expected that from that newspaper, but from the Sun?
From the Sun?
Show a little class,
Come
guys.
on.
Anyway, Jobless Kevin.
Poor Jobless Kevin.
It sounds like a nickname you give your friend.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Jobless Kevin.
Shout out, Jobless Kevin.
He's always free.
Jobless Kevin, whose family were left with just the clothes they were wearing,
That's
said
awful.
yesterday.
Yeah, his house burned down.
Yeah.
And they're like, check out this guy. He doesn't have a job.
Do you think his friends called him Jobless Kevin forever from that point on?
I hope so. It's kind of great.
He said, we'd only been in there for a few months.
Oh.
The quote, the picture was already hanging on the wall. Oh, this is even worse. The picture was hanging on the wall left by the previous tenant. Fire experts believe the blaze was started by an electric something in a bedroom.
Electric something?
Last night, Kevin, Julie, and their 2 children were staying with friends. More than 50,000 copies of Crying Boy prints are thought to have found their way into British homes. And then they follow it up with big bold letters, send them to us.
Oh, God, of course.
Enough is enough, folks. If you're worried about a Crying Boy picture hanging in your home, send it to us immediately. We will destroy the painting for you, and that should see the back of any curse there may be.
Do you know how hard the Warrens were trying to get these things? It just dawned on me right now. They were like, we got to get our hands on some of those Crying Boys. Like,
That's
they definitely were probably trying
true.
to. No, send them us. Send them us.
It's funny, I've never seen one in their museum.
You can't see anything in their museum
Why?
because it's dark and dusty and everything's layered on top of each other. That's too mean. We're going to have to cut that out. It's true, though.
So the Sun comes up with this, I mean, honestly, from a marketing standpoint, brilliant idea.
Yeah.
They say, send us all of your prints. We'll destroy them for you.
Yeah.
Connor made a good point the other day.
Well, it's a little bit odd that these paintings are famous for never catching on fire. And they're
That
like,
was the solution.
No, that's the only way I can think of to get rid of them. So
The other funny thing about this is their original idea for where they were going to hold this bonfire
the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life.
was on the roof of the Sun
Yeah.
headquarters.
They were like, there's, nothing in this building but newspapers. Let's make sure we start a bonfire on the roof
so
of the building.
stupid. Clearly, the fire marshals were like, no.
Yeah, the fire marshals know what's up. They're the ones chasing down all these scary painting fires.
So they ended up having a big bonfire down by a river, having a source of water nearby.
Yeah.
And they had their page 3 girls
Yeah,
throwing them into the
baby.
fire. For our American listeners,
Yes.
if you don't know what a page 3 girl is,
it's a hot local.
it's a hot local.
Yeah.
Hot singles in your area.
That's what it is. Sometimes they're topless. Sometimes they aren't. They're usually topless.
A lot of topless. It's a strange thing. The UK has different ideas about modesty than we do over here. A bunch of Puritans.
Local babes.
and they're just in like the normal paper.
Yeah, it's literally just
people
like
just-
a pinup.
Yeah,
It's a pinup, yeah.
only
Just
on the
in-
third page.
On the third page.
That's why
Yeah.
they're called page 3 girls.
And they had the page 3 girls
They did.
taking these. There's like a famous photograph on one of the Sun newspapers that shows one of the page 3 girls holding one of the crying boys. A big
Yeah,
pile
there
of
it
it.
is.
Yeah, there it is. Throwing them into the fire.
Mm-hmm.
That's if you read the article, that's Red Hot Beauty Sandra
Oh,
J.
yeah.
Moore
Red Hot
throwing-
Beauty.
throwing that.
I love her
painting in the
little
fire.
like fireman's hat.
Yeah. So they burned.
So they roasted them.
How many did they burn? Do we have that number? There were a ton.
Supposedly like 2,000.
My God, they got 2,000.
Yeah. And
When-
also, they were wearing clothes when they did it.
Oh, that's true. They were not topless as they.
It's.
as they
I
did
mean,
it.
that 2,000 paintings on fire might be a bit hot for your taters. You know, like that.
Your taters.
Probably wouldn't feel very great. Yeah, cover up those taters. I don't know why I've been calling boobs taters a lot lately.
So yeah, the funny thing about this idea is, like Connor said, why would you burn something
Yeah.
that's not supposed to burn?
Yeah.
Maybe the idea was, hey, we're gonna show all of you guys these do indeed burn.
Yeah.
These will burn.
Wait, yeah.
Maybe that's how they decided to break the curse. I don't know. I mean, I have a feeling they did it because it was sensational.
Sure.
And they could get those great photos, you
Yeah.
know? So let's talk a little bit about why this curse may have persisted. What is it about these situations with the crying boy that made people believe there was a curse? What could have been happening here?
Well, I don't know. There are pictures of crying children. That's a little weird. Immediately would make my spooky senses go off. You know what I mean? Like, is there a ghost of a little boy or little girl who are trying to get someone's attention?
That was one of the most famous theories.
Yeah.
The spooky ideas about what these things were is that the curse was caused by some boy who was trying to get out of the painting.
So
he's trying to burn,
Gotcha.
but he couldn't for some reason, trying to escape the painting.
So he just kept starting fires.
Yeah. One of my favorite rumors is that the artist sold his soul to the devil. And that's why he was able to sell so many prints of such a not so classy kind of painting.
Yeah.
Is because he had made a pact with the devil. That one allegedly originated from a Brazilian television show, although the references to that are incredibly hard to find.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that we noticed during the research phase of this. There's not a ton of really great first generation information about these paintings.
Not only is the artist a bit of a mystery, which we'll talk about later, but the whole idea of why these were even created. Was there a name for the series? Was this like something that was in an art installation?
Right.
Didn't seem to be the case. And they also didn't know who the children were.
Yeah.
If they were modeling.
Yeah.
If, it was somebody, if they were all from the same school or something like that. I had no idea.
Isn't that
where
weird?
These kids came from.
That's such a weird detail, too, because when you think about it, like, each one of them is so specific. Each one of them is obviously modeled after a person. No one has a memory of sitting.
I know.
For any of these. You know
Why
what I mean?
haven't
Like,
any of these kids come forward to be like, I was one of the subjects in the crying boys?
So you would think even just someone in Europe, you would think, because it was so popular at that point, you'd think that there would be someone who was like, oh yeah, 20 years ago or 10 years ago, my mom and dad made me sit and this artist painted a picture of me. And like, because there's so many of them, like there's obviously the possibility that the artists were kind of pulling the faces from memories and like but more often than not, there's a subject for a painting.
No one's even lying about being a model.
Exactly. That's so weird. It's such like a perfect thing for someone to lie about and get attention for. That like, it's so weird. They've never done that.
Well, I mean, that sort of leads perfectly into one of the last really big legends around why these paintings are cursed. And it's the idea that the artist had somehow mistreated the people, the children in these paintings, and they were trying to get revenge.
Yeah,
so somehow these kids were starting these fires because they didn't want these paintings to even exist, because the guy was a jerk.
Yeah.
Or worse.
Yeah.
We don't know.
He's a real jerk.
A real jerk. The point being, there were a lot of ideas about why these things were cursed, why in the world these things were not only potentially starting fires, but surviving them. There were even some people who tried to spin the legend in a more positive way, where they were like, the only reason that these paintings survived is because of the little boy's tears.
Oh, like they were quenching the fires?
Quenching the flames.
Well, that's kind of...
It's a little more of a positive spin. Still kind of spooky. It's kind of creepy. The point being, a lot of people had a lot of different ideas about what this curse was and where it came from.
And that seems to be like the most of the information that is about these paintings.
Right.
There's no like tangible... There's not a lot of tangible information. There's just a lot of folklore and a lot of firsthand... or what is believed to be firsthand experiences around them.
Right.
Which is kind of interesting.
There are, you might have noticed, if you're watching the video podcast, there's a couple different versions of this painting that we have in the collection here. Turns out there's probably as many as 65 or more.
Yeah.
There are dozens of different crying boys. There are crying girls.
Yeah.
I saw one not too long ago that was a crying girl and then like a spooky white horse over her right shoulder. So there's variations of these.
Yeah.
Even though like 2 or 3 of them were the most popular prints. People are afraid of weird paintings.
Yeah,
There's reasons to be afraid of weird paintings.
Think about all of the old movies that you've seen with like, portraits of like eyeballs that move around. And there's something...
The Mona Lisa effect is what that's called.
There's something very spooky about portraits, I think specifically older portraits, where no matter what, you feel like someone's watching. You feel like someone's eyes are following you around. And there's a sense of like, there's somebody still in there.
Yeah.
Someone's looking at me.
Connor, you looked up why that effect actually works on people, right?
So what happens is it's sort of a visual phenomena. Paintings are always on 2D surfaces. And the way that our brains comprehend the world around us is in 3D, and we sort of see multiple dimensions around things. And so we can tell what objects' orientations are in like directionally when we look at them and the light and the shadows are hitting their face in a certain way. Well, pictures are stuck. So the light and the shadows are just hitting in the way that they were depicted that way.
Yeah.
And so what happens is if a subject is looking straight ahead at the person who's looking at the painting, and this is the same for portraits too. If you're looking straight ahead, just like Mona Lisa was, that's why it's called the Mona Lisa effect, your brain will soak it in as this is looking at me no matter where you're standing.
Right.
So it feels as if the eyes are following you.
I mean, I always thought that it was because there was like a creepy old man with removable eyeballs on it that looked through and watched you as you were trying to solve mysteries in the old mansion.
Watched you as you were changing.
Well, there's that too.
Eee.
Well, turns out there's a scientific solution.
There is. We could even try it if one of you looks directly at the camera and then no matter where people walk around their TV screen.
Yeah, get Greg to do it. This is your private objects podcast, haunted objects podcast. Greg Newkirk experience.
Uncomfortable.
This is what it's like when Greg is flirting with you. This is POV. Greg is flirting with you. Objects Pod edition.
Oh,
This is Greg is lustful. Possibly.
now he's
Now
suspicious.
Now we don't know.
Oh, maybe. Also, now. Oh no.
Oh, no. That's. Oh, now he's proud of you.
Now he's proud. This is Greg
Good
Greg
job.
Newkirk Dad edition. If you need a dad to tell you that you did a good job, Greg Newkirk will do that for you.
Oh wait, what did you do?
There you go.
So
We tried it at home.
Whether that worked or not, I don't know. But it's a cool visual effect.
People are afraid of paintings sometimes because they look like their eyes are following you.
Yeah.
There's also folklore attached to the idea of a painting falls down. It foretells a bad omen of death in the family. There's a lot of superstition around paintings.
And they're also of people. And it's easy, I think, to attribute, a human soul to something that is of a picture of a person.
Right.
And especially for us now, people like, there's a lot of people who collect vintage art and old portraits and old like charcoal sketches. Those people are, they look like they're from a time period that isn't of our time period. So you can't help but feel like there's a ghost inside of those paintings watching you, trying to send you some kind of a message. They're spooky. They're awesome, but they're spooky.
Well, do they start mysterious fires?
I hope not. I really hope not.
Here's the thing. Paranormal fires are not a new concept. They started long before.
Yeah.
The idea of phantom fires is something that has existed in, paranormal lore for quite a while.
Yeah.
We could talk a little bit about even things like spontaneous combustion.
Yeah.
Which still, I don't think people have really figured out. There's all kinds of ideas. I think these days, the common prevailing idea is that a lot of these people were smokers. And they just fell
set their
asleep
clothes on fire
with cigarettes. And then they, a lot of people wore like polyester back then and just
I mean, he was, in that time period, you're right. The clothes were made out of polyester. The furniture is probably made out of much more flammable material than they are now.
There's still some weird cases. There's
Yeah.
some really weird like human combustion cases. And in any case, the pictures are gnarly.
Yeah, they're really scary.
Like where it's just the legs.
Yeah, the
at
legs
the end of
lady.
like a couch.
I know.
Oof.
The
spooky.
other fires always and usually associated with poltergeist activity.
True.
There's,
Yep.
Spontaneous fires pop up in the houses where there are poltergeist-like activity happening.
Yeah.
And so that's not an uncommon thing. It seems as if it's fire seems to be a common thing that happens quite often around.
There's that Stephen King book, Firestarter. It was turned into a movie too. There were a couple movies. I think they just remade it. And that was all about a little kid who could start fires with their mind.
Didn't Drew Barrymore play her in the original movie? Like
I think she might have.
Like little baby Drew Barrymore?
Yeah, I think she may have.
If
you know what's funny?
If you could do that, would you?
If I could start fires with my mind?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. What are you talking about?
But you have to like learn how to do it. Like you'd accidentally like, oh
no, dude, I'd be driving down the highway just like looking at stuff going you know, all those big like bales of hay that you see on the field? I'd just be popping those suckers off.
Connor, Keelin, would you like to have this ability?
No.
No?
That sounds so stressful.
It sounds stressful to me too.
Of course, it would be cool.
Yeah.
Very fun.
Just pointing at stuff and blowing it up.
Unsurprisingly, the two Scorpios are excited about having the power of blowing things up with their minds.
That'd be sick.
Yeah.
You know, there's a word for that. It's called pyrokinesis. And the funny thing is, I didn't know that until this episode. Stephen King invented that word.
I honestly thought it was a real thing.
I mean, it could be like it's something that people have experienced,
I thought
and it's been a theory.
Term that had been around for a long time. I didn't realize the King had come up with it.
It's very easy to be skeptical about mysterious fires, particularly today. You know, any place that has electricity can have like a strange fire happen out of nowhere. Just freak accidents occur.
Yeah, and like a lot of the houses we're talking about specifically in the 80s, the ones that were in England, were retrofitted for a lot of new appliances. You just don't know, and it's always plausible that could have been what was causing those fires.
But what do you do when the house that is manifesting these spontaneous fires has never had electricity?
You rent a moving truck, you put all your stuff in it, and then you drive it to a new house where you will live.
This happened in Indiana in the 40s.
In Erie, Indiana.
Yeah, it might as well have been Erie, Indiana.
Spooky Indiana.
It's actually Odin, Indiana. The Hackler family farm experienced 28 mysterious object-oriented fires in a single day.
Yeah, literally that is or averaging more than one fire an hour.
I know.
They were having a whole day.
The crazy thing about these fires is that, again, they were object-oriented.
Yeah.
So even when an item would burst into flames, nothing around it would burn.
Yeah.
Even the curtains at one point caught fire, and they didn't burn the shades, they didn't burn the wall. It was just the curtains.
Yeah, and like when you think about that kind of a story, it's likely that you're initially going to think, oh, well, was there like a gas leak or like, you know what I mean? Like you're thinking like, is this pockets of gas that are getting stuck in certain places? But it was actual physical objects spontaneously exploding into balls of fire or just setting on fire.
No electricity in the house. It had never been run. There were not even any power lines nearby.
No.
Firemen witnessed this happening.
They watched a calendar literally set on fire in front of them.
They spent 13 hours running all over this house, putting out these fires. And this garnered so much national attention.
Yeah.
It was even in an insurance ad.
Yeah.
for an insurance company.
It's just brilliant.
Brilliant. Basically saying like, hey, don't trust your insurance company with mysterious fires. We'll do the trick. If you have a mysterious fire, we'll cover it.
It's such a weird story. And the fact that, again, we're talking about physical objects just manifesting fire immediately is it's interesting because it's kind of the opposite almost of like the Crying Boy paintings, but it's really not. It's like we're seeing that there's precedent for actual kind of paranormal fires.
Here's the insurance ad.
Oh my God.
Very
that
funny.
is great.
It's so perfect.
You know, the fire marshal, the state fire marshal, he said, or the Indiana State Fire Marshal stated that the Odin fires were by far the most baffling mystery of his entire career.
I don't believe it.
Still think it's unexplained, right?
Yeah, as far as I could tell.
Just a single day, a bunch of weird fires. What
so random.
happened?
And there were children, 5 kids in the house.
Oh yeah, that's right. I mean,
didn't say
again,
the ages.
Well,
so.
it's interesting because it does, like you saying that, it kind of connects to stories of poltergeist fires. Like spontaneous fires are not uncommon in a lot of poltergeist lore, but also small children, kids going through puberty, they tend to also be, a similar thing that is in the house when this poltergeist activities happening.
Maybe they had pyrokinesis.
Maybe.
It's weird. The part to me that's interesting is that these were object-based fires.
Yeah, it's
and that
very
they didn't
weird.
burn anything else. And you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I know someone, we both know someone who has experienced a mysterious object-based fire more recently than the 40s.
Yeah, yes.
Do you think she'd take my call and talk about it?
I absolutely would.
All right, hang on a second. I'm going to see if I can get her on the line. This is one of my favorite stories, and I don't think it is told terribly often. Bruni. Oh, here we go. You were on mute. I'm sorry.
What a rookie move.
Listen, we're doing the best we can over here. Hey, okay, I have a question for you, and if you feel like telling the story, I'd love for you to tell the story. We are talking about phantom fires, specifically around the Crying Boy paintings.
Okay.
And I remembered that you have a story about encountering a phantom fire, possibly tied to a haunted object.
I do.
Would you tell us
actually.
that story?
Yeah, I will. It still stands as one of the weirdest things that it just defies all logic. But I'll tell you. Okay, so many years ago, like 5 years ago when I was a teenager.
Right.
No, actually, I was actually very young at this point. I feel like I was maybe 13 or 14. There was an antique store near my house, and I would stop in there often. And at one point, they had in stock like a boudoir doll. And I don't know if you're familiar with these, but they're just these beautiful, like kind of flapper style dolls with beautiful makeup. And this one had human hair on it and everything.
Oh, wow.
And it was $75. And I did not have $75, but I kept looking at this doll. And finally, the person who owned the place was like, I can put her on layaway for you if you want. And so I put her on layaway, and every week I would come in and give them my allowance until I finally had the $75 to take this doll home, right? And so I got this doll. I brought it home. She was in like a wedding dress kind of outfit, and I put her on the shelf in my room. And not long after that, I walked into my room, and it smelled like something was burning. And I was very confused. Well, at this point I had started like kind of like burning incense and candles here and there. And so I was like, oh my God, did I leave something going? But I had not. And I found that beneath the doll on the shelf was scorched. Like there was like a black scorch mark under the doll. And so I looked all around the shelf, and I still kind of blamed myself. I was like, I must have had a candle or something there. I don't know. But there was nothing else. And so not long after that, again, I came into the room and I smelled burning. And I was like, something is on fire in this room. And I'm like, and I could like see even like a little bit of smoke in the air. And I was like, what is going on? Because I think nothing was burning in my room that I knew of. And I go up to the doll again. And this time her actual skirts on her dress were smoldering. And they even had like that kind of like red, like they were like about to combust. like they were literally smoldering and smoking.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I instantly kind of like batted her out, and I was like, what is wrong with this doll? Like I knew it was the doll. And I was obviously interested in ghosts and things at that point, but I was not really I did not realize that, objects could be this way. And so my solution was that in hindsight probably wasn't the best decision, but I was like, I'm just going to put her in the closet.
And your bedroom didn't burn down, right?
It did not. So I put her in the closet. There actually might be a part of the story you don't know, but we'll get to that point.
I can't wait.
I put her in the closet, and I just kind of like left her there, closed her off, did not even think about her again until maybe many months later, I went into the closet and I was like, something smells in here.
Oh, no.
And so you're cat people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, no.
I had cats. I had a couple cats, and they were like my buddies, but they were very well trained. They used the litter box. They were not like peers. And so, but I discovered that my cats had been peeing on this doll.
On the doll?
That is
Just
so
on the doll,
weird.
nothing else.
So they
had just
they're sneaking into your closet and peeing out a fire on a doll, saving everybody's life.
That's it. They were saving your life,
That's
Bruni.
actually amazing.
I literally thought about this. I'm like,
So
was this
scary.
thing smoking? And the cats were like, we got this.
That is so scary.
What happened to the doll?
Okay, so here's the thing. This is the part you probably don't know.
Okay.
I still loved this doll, and I felt intensely guilty that this was her fate. Like, I was like, this doll is old, she's beautiful, and this is what she's been reduced to. The only part of her that was unscathed from the cat urine was her head.
No, you did not.
So,
Did you decapitate your haunted doll?
I decapitated the doll.
Oh my God.
Okay. But wait, there's more.
Oh God.
So I decapitated the doll. I thought maybe I would find someone to build her new body. I just was.
This is like a Frankenstein scenario.
Bruni, were you a weird kid?
Of course I was. Look at me now. Jesus. But this was like this was like in my like conflicted, high school stage where it was like,
Right. Oh my God.
and I just felt so bad. She was so beautiful, and I felt so bad for her. So, anyways, so my dad threw her body in the burn pile out back.
Oh no! How fitting.
Yeah.
I know. Okay. So here comes the woo-woo part. Like, this is the part where I'm like, I'm not sure. So if you guys have met my aunts, like I have practical magic aunts. That
Yeah.
Are like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So they're like super witchy. And so my Aunt Roxy decided one night she wanted to have a seance to try to figure out what was going on with this doll.
Oh my God.
I love this.
It's incredible.
So we had the doll head. And we did a seance.
Oh my God.
And this is where I don't know if any of this is true or not. Obviously, there's no way to verify any of this, but 14-year-old Amy was just gobbling this.
Oh, it's
up.
amazing.
So anyways,
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had a seance, and according to the seance and the information we received at that point, this doll was one of a doll collection.
Okay.
And this woman had these dolls, and she was dying. She was sick and dying in her house, and there was a fire burning in her house. And at the moment of her dying, a spark from the fire flew out and landed on her doll collection.
Oh
And
my God.
so as she was dying, she was thinking of her dolls potentially burning. So
I
don't.
am obsessed with this story. This is incredible. So you tell me that this doll head is in some kind of a locked box somewhere. You have this thing in your possession.
No idea where this doll is.
Oh, that's even weirder.
It's out there
It's
somewhere.
just out there.
Yeah, it's out there. So if anyone found a red-headed boudoir doll head somewhere in Northern California in 1998 or 9, that might have been her.
This is amazing. So now, you this is your career. Looking back on it, is there anything that you think about this doll now that you weren't thinking as, like a 13-year-old kid?
I mean, I probably would have put more investigation into the actual cause of the fire. Like I would, now I know things. I would have separated her from everything else, and I would have put a camera on her.
Oh, sure.
I would have just investigated her a little more. I wouldn't have just been like, here is my closet. This is where you go. And so, I also, I know now, there's really I will never find out where that doll came from, and I wouldn't have found out then.
Right.
You just have to go on the experience and the vibes, and so I don't know the story. I don't know why it happened, but it did. So
I love it. One question before I let you go.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever thought, because, you saying that you were 13 at the time, I think is kind of interesting. Have you ever thought that maybe there was something about you at that point that was doing this to the doll? Because, little kids and poltergeists and stuff like that, and you're an angsty teenager. Do you think there might have been an element of that?
I mean, I hadn't considered that, but in retrospect, everything that I did around that time, it would makes sense. And I don't necessarily think that I'm, psychic or anything, but I think that I was always interested in the strange and different. And so maybe things would feel more comfortable making themselves known to me, kind of thing. Because I was honestly just completely obsessed with the paranormal at that time. So I was seeking it out everywhere I went. I had the craziest experiences.
And look at you now.
Look at me now. Who would have thought?
Bruni, thank you for sharing that story with us. It fits so perfectly into the episode we're recording. I love it. And I hadn't heard any of the other stuff. I knew about the cat, and that's what I thought immediately. I was like, man, the people who own the Crying Boy paintings, they just needed some cats.
I mean, I know my cats would have my back now. So if your cats are randomly peeing on strange objects in your house, you should be suspicious.
That's a good point.
There we go. Wise words. Thank you, Amy.
Thanks, Amy.
We love you. We'll talk to you soon.
Love you too. Miss you guys. I'll see you soon.
See ya.
Bye.
Well, there you have it.
It's the weirdest, because there's so many elements to it. It's it's spontaneously starting fires. The fact that Amy's a young teenager at the time, obsessed with the paranormal, and then on top of it you have the weirdest detail, which is literally that the cats were stopping the house from burning down by peeing on this thing.
It checks all the boxes.
It's so weird and so great. I love it. It's one of the most unique paranormal, probably personal paranormal stories I've ever heard.
I'm just imagining little Amy Bruni and her witchy aunts sitting around a table in the dark, holding hands with this decapitated doll.
So many people make objects pod art. I would literally die for someone to draw this scene.
Yeah,
it would be incredible.
Well, I think that story, not all of those elements, but I think that story's in her book, Life with the Afterlife.
Yes.
So if you want to know more about Bruni's haunted doll and all kinds of other tips, you can check that book out. We'll put it in the show notes. One of the common occurrences in most of these cases is the presence of children.
Yeah.
And we know, as paranormal researchers, poltergeist phenomena tends to manifest around a human agent.
Yes.
Mostly children.
Yes.
It seems that almost like puberty is so psychically frustrating to kids that it's puberty-age children that start to experience a lot of weird poltergeist phenomena around them. And I would say that mysterious fires probably qualify as that.
Sure. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
So what if this
boy.
What if this boy?
Oh boy.
What if this boy? I'm sorry, I can't stop saying boy that way. What if this boy is the agent needed to cause those spontaneous fires? What if there's something about him?
I mean, they're not called crying man paintings. Right? They
you know
are
how sad that would be?
It would be so weird.
That's somehow sadder than a
weirder?
crying boy.
An adult man
This adult man.
crying his heart out.
It's a weird, but it's true though. Like they're paintings of kids.
Yeah.
You know, like that's kind of weird.
There is one story. It seems to be the only real well-documented story about one of these boys. And it appears in the Haunted Liverpool series of books. It's a series of books that's been produced for a long... I mean, it's on like the 35th or 36th edition of these.
They've been around for a long time.
Liverpool's got some paranormal problems.
Liverpool, what's happening?
We're rating Haunted Liverpool series of books at least one per year, usually 2 per year.
Wow.
So
There's just so many ghosts in Liverpool.
So basically, at least 2 decades these books have been coming out.
yeah, there's a lot of good math in this episode.
There is. We're really flexing our muscles here.
1.25 fires per hour. 1.8 haunted Liverpool books per year.
Are we learning that the only way we can do accurate math is when we're talking about
haunted
things?
objects.
We're like,
I still can't do accurate math.
We have to make math fun for Keelin.
yes.
We have to make math fun.
Yes.
These books, the Haunted Liverpool series of books, are written by a guy named Tom Slemen. Hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Wouldn't it be funny if his name was Tom Sleeman? That kid got bullied in school.
Sleeman or Sleman?
So Tom Slemen, he wrote tons of these books. And one of them actually includes a purportedly true account
Yeah.
of the origin of the crying boy.
Yeah.
The story kind of goes like this. One of Tom Slemen's friends, George Mallory, claims that he actually interviewed the artist. He interviewed the mysterious G. Bragolin. And he told this guy, he told George, I saw a street urchin, this young boy, and I just had to capture this boy on canvas.
It wasn't that I had to help him.
No.
I had to give him food and take care
Well,
of
it
him.
was. I mean, it's a little weird for a guy to be wandering around the streets and see this
Yeah.
little kid and
What-
be like, I have to paint you,
Yeah.
child.
What year would we say this is?
I don't know. It had to be in the 50s or 60s, right?
All right, so that's like at a point where people are like, well, let these kids do whatever they want. Like, it's not a weird thing for an adult man to be like, child, come with me to my home where I will paint you. You know what I mean? No one was looking
it's
out
still
for
pretty
him.
weird.
That's pretty weird.
It's true.
I think that's pretty weird.
That's true.
Well,
All
this
all
story...
I'm saying today is it would be on a Facebook post about watching out for this man.
It would be-
You know what I
There's a
mean?
man wandering our neighborhood,
Like-
painting our children.
Yeah, he's painting our children crying.
Yeah. He makes them cry, and then he paints them.
Yeah.
That's a weird legend. According to George Mallory,
Yes.
the artist claimed that this boy's name was Don Bonillo.
Okay.
And he was living on the streets because his parents had died in a fire.
Okay.
He decides, you know what? I think I'm going to take this boy in. If this
Yeah.
boy really has no parents, I'm going to take him in. But a priest tells him, don't do it. This boy is cursed. Fires follow him wherever he goes. Which,
Is this the same priest from the Amityville Horror?
right, they're terrible priests.
Yeah, like not helpful whatsoever.
Like, you're a priest, do a fucking exorcism on the boy.
Yeah.
You
Or,
can
I don't
fix it.
know, help him out.
You would think.
Didn't the priest call him Diablo?
Yeah, the local visitors called the boy Diablo.
I love that adults are bullying this small child, like being like, "Don't help him; he'll set fires." We call him Diablo.
Well,
No wonder this kid was setting fires. I would be setting fires too.
so this kid, Don, his parents die in a fire.
Mm-hmm.
He's the priests are saying, don't adopt this kid. His name is Diablo. His nickname's Diablo. He fires manifest wherever he goes.
Yeah.
But this nice old man, after painting this boy, says, I'm gonna adopt this boy.
Okay,
And he does.
he
and
adopted him,
well,
or he kept him.
He brought
Two totally different things. Like,
I don't know.
let's be honest here.
I don't know. It's not clear.
One has paperwork, the other one is illegal.
Well, listen, it didn't last long. It
So
didn't last long.
We'll go with the illegal.
He took him
Allegedly.
in.
He took him in.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Allegedly.
Didn't last long.
Okay.
Because the artist's studio burns down.
Diablo strikes again.
And the boy starts crying and he runs away. And the only time he's heard from again is when there's a car accident and they find this guy's driver's license.
Oh, Diablo had a driver's license.
Diablo had a driver's license.
Okay.
He was 19.
All right.
And that's all that
he
existed of
perished
him
at
because
19?
his body was a charred corpse.
Listen, if that's true, that's sad.
Well,
That's a sad story about a kid that died in a car accident at 19 and all the adults around him called him Diablo his entire life.
I have good news for you.
Okay.
There are no more sources for this story, so it's probably not true.
All right. Okay. All right.
It literally only ever appears first in this book.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of websites that exist out there who directly refute this and say it's made up. I don't know. We don't know for sure.
Yeah. Shout out Diablo if you're real.
Don Bonillo.
Uh-huh.
May be a fabrication.
Okay.
We're not sure, but I think we can I'd be comfortable hedging my bets on
Okay,
that.
that's fair.
Not as mysterious when you just call him Don.
Don. Yeah. That's why they called him Diablo.
They're like,
"That's way
he's not scary enough if we just keep calling him Don.
It's true. That's my dad's name.
That is your dad.
I'm going to start calling him Don Diablo.
Diablo Newkirk.
And here's the other thing, too. The story doesn't, functionally, it doesn't make sense because there are like 65 different kids.
Yeah, that is a good point. There's also girls.
That's true.
So this would have, if this were true, this would have to be a story about one specific painting.
Yes.
And one boy who's in the painting.
But also, why in the would you as an artist go through that and then just be like, I can't wait to find another street urchin to paint?
Exactly.
So, there's a lot of things about that story that I think we can we can give it the side eye.
Yeah, we can go, okay.
Probably not the actual history of this.
All right.
Which makes this even stranger.
Yeah.
Because no one really knows.
No, it's so weird. The more we learn about this, the less we know, and the more I'm like, what is going on here? Like, is this some sort of weird conspiracy? Like, what is happening with these paintings?
We're going to come back to the artist.
Yeah.
But let's look at some potential skeptical arguments for what is causing these fires.
Okay.
The first thing, you already kind of covered the idea that these houses are old, man.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever been to England, but they have houses that have things called thatched roofs, which is essentially just hay.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, it's a lot of, flammable, possibly. And again, a lot of buildings in England and Europe, just in general, are old. They're old. So if they've been, recently had electricity put in them, or for whatever reason, you were living in a small space that is, it's just potentially dangerous. Like, you could easily start a fire in a lot of these buildings, and that fire would be, it would go out of control pretty fast.
I think we sometimes forget, as Americans, forget that the houses people live in over there are older than this country.
Yeah, they're literally like 500-year-old pubs, and that's not even near the oldest buildings that they have that people are living in.
Yeah.
So
why aren't the paintings burning?
So here's the thing that I think is interesting. If they're falling down and laying flat, we have to consider there is this little lip here. So the chances of air getting inside it, maybe it's being protected when it falls and hits the ground.
It's a really good guess.
It's
almost like you knew what we were going to talk about.
It's almost like I watched that William Shatner show.
The BBC had a radio show called Punt PI.
Yeah, worst name ever.
Worst name ever. In 2010, Punt PI actually decided to test the Crying Boy painting as a legend and see if they could figure out, was there any truth to it?
Yeah.
What they found is they took the paintings and they did some testing on them at the Building Research Establishment.
Also sounds like a fake place.
That's so weird. The Building Research Establishment. And they found the first thing that they discovered is that the paintings actually, there's a varnish that goes on the print to make it look more like a painting, kind of gives it that shiny look.
Yeah, and it'll give it almost looks like paint strokes.
Exactly.
Kind of. Yeah.
That particular brand of varnish had fire-resistant properties.
Yes.
Yes.
Work. Sorry.
Which could help explain
Yeah.
why a lot of these paintings didn't catch fire.
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
The other interesting thing that they found is that the string that would hold most of these things, it would be the first thing to deteriorate, which means that it would fall off of the wall where things would be the hottest because hot air rises, and it would hit the ground and it would land face down, which means it would be in the coolest part of the house. A lot of them have these lips on the side of the frame, which protects the painting itself, which means there could be some cool air trapped under there.
Sure.
Which means that by the time the firemen show up, this is what's left.
Yeah.
Because of all of those things coming together. You can actually see a version of this same experiment.
That's cool, yeah.
In William Shatner had a paranormal show called Weird or What. And there's a segment in one of these shows, we'll put it in the show notes, where they actually did this on camera.
Yes.
And you can watch it play out the exact same way that it does in the BBC.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating. And the dude who runs the experiment,
he is having the best day of his life.
He is just so psyched to be there setting fires.
Yeah, and he's probably really excited because he's like, I'm doing the crying boy painting. It's finally happening. I'm the guy who gets to do it.
I'm going to debunk it.
But it immediately falls off the wall.
Yeah.
Because, again, in this tiny room that they've kind of recreated for this experiment, there's wallpaper on the wall. So the fire climbs up the wallpaper immediately and burns the hook on the back of the painting, and it falls down to the ground.
Yep. And then it's fine. So
Yep.
by the time the firemen get there, it's the only thing that's left.
Yeah.
Everything else is burned. And it's almost just a series of really lucky events that keep these things alive.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then there's a whole lot of paintings that must survive fires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just that
It has to be.
this is a spooky one.
It's a spooky one.
Because it's a child crying, and that's weird.
Yes, it is.
If it was a bunch of Highland cows, people would have a weird thing about. They'd be like, "Is this a cow's revenge thing?" You know what I mean? Like, but I think more so the fact that they're crying children make it noticeably weird.
Yeah. Well, if you're a fire person,
firefighter.
In the comments, let us know if paintings survive the most.
Yeah.
The things that were hanging on the
I
wall,
would
if
love
they
to know
survive the
that.
most in fires.
Yeah.
Put a little wee woo in your comment too, and then we know.
You have to type it though. Type wee woo, wee woo.
Can you put the little alert emoji or like the firefighter hat next to it? And we'll be like, oh, we got one.
We'll read them. Not only was the varnish a potential culprit for this painting being more likely to survive, because sometimes they'd be on the wall, so maybe it'd be the varnish that would help them. If they fell on the floor, they'd also probably survive too. They had a third thing going for them. Apparently, a lot of them were put on this high-density hard.
Oh, right.
Okay.
That was like just a thicker board.
Instead of like a canvas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's not burnt. It has a better chance of surviving because it's just like a thicker piece of wood.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The odds are in the favor of the crying boy.
Yeah.
Are you in possession of a haunted object? An antique spiritualist tool? Wreckage from a crashed UFO? The Newkirk Museum of the Paranormal wants to add it to their archives. Whether your strange item is causing you paranormal problems or is simply a supernaturally significant relic worthy of curation, we want to hear from you. For more information on our acquisition process, visit paramuseum.com.
While we're wearing our skeptic hats, it's probably worthwhile to cast a skeptical gaze in the sun's direction.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things about the Crying Boy legend is whenever you're trying to trace its origin, it's the Sun, the tabloid, is what pops up. It is their first article about the Crying Boy. Seems to be the spot where this thing takes over, and then it just gets out of control.
Yeah, it seems to be like the canonical source.
Turns out, people aren't doing very good research because there actually was an earlier article that was a little less sensationalized.
The old mole Connor dug up that old...
The mole.
Can we call him the mole?
I think Connor has a new nickname.
Connor's the mole of the internet.
Connor the Mole Randall.
Yeah. Love it.
Connor did some digging,
He did.
and he found out people are doing bad research.
Shocking.
Shocking.
What?
Paranormal investigators doing terrible research.
That should be the podcast description.
People are doing bad research.
It turns out that the very first appearance
Yeah.
of the Crying Boy legend is just a few days earlier.
Yep.
This appeared in the Sheffield Star
Yeah.
in September of 1985, titled Family Hit by Curse.
We already have precedent for curse.
There it is.
Right there. It's in the actual headline.
The distraught Hall family from Swallownest believe the curse of the Crying Boy print has struck their home. Their home in the Pagenall Drive Swallownest was wrecked by fire, and they're kicking themselves for not following the advice of a fireman relative who told them to get rid of a framed print of a little boy crying. Ronald Hall's brother Peter works at Erskine Road Fire Station, and he told the family that every house he's been called to, there's been the same sad print. When he told us, we just laughed, said 53-year-old May Hall. It's not going back in the house, it's going in the bin. It's a lovely print, but it's gotta go. I'm not superstitious, but this makes you wonder, added May. The print was not damaged in the blaze, and May said this was the case with other prints that had been in fires. Ronald Hall, 59-year-old redundant miner, said, I think we've figured out redundant probably means retired.
Sure. It's
that's-
a really weird way of saying that.
Yeah. Again, northern England, this is where a lot of the miners lived. Ronald Hall, 59-year-old redundant miner, said, I want to burn it to make sure it doesn't come back. If I find out who painted it, then I'll sue him. The house suffered extensive smoke and heat damage after chip pan fat started the blaze. The
Chips are French fries for Americans.
It's true. The kitchen was completely gutted. Kind of funny. It seems like they gloss over that in the other articles.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not the only thing they gloss over. The Hall's 25-year-old son was trying to cook chips when the fire started. The Kiveton Park colliery fitter said, what's a colliery fitter?
It's a job in a coal mine, I think.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
The Keveton Park colliery fitter said, it was very frightening, and I'm upset about the whole thing. David burnt his hands when he tried to put the fire out with a damp towel. He tried to put out a grease fire.
With water.
With water.
What happens when you do that? You make more fire.
He has not been detained in the hospital. The Halls are now having to stay with relatives. So I think we can say definitively
Yeah.
it was actually Peter
Yes.
who started this legend of a curse.
Yeah.
Peter and Alan, his coworker at the firehouse, and the fire seems pretty definitively to have started with throwing a damp towel on a grease fire.
Yeah, which everyone knows is not a good idea to do.
No, definitely
Also,
not.
interesting point is that they only talk about the fire being in the kitchen, not in the
That's
whole
true.
house.
The whole house was not destroyed.
No,
there was a lot of
just the
smoke
kitchen.
damage, but it was just really mainly the kitchen.
Mhm. And I think that there was at some point they talked about how the painting was directly across from the kitchen, as if it was looking into the kitchen.
Yep.
Which is strange and kind of spooky.
What ended up happening was when this article went out, it was the editor of The Sun, Kelvin Mackenzie is his name. Also, I think it's very interesting that his name is Kelvin,
Yeah.
which is a unit of heat measurement.
Yeah. It's
that's
weird. It's a
true.
weird detail.
Is that true?
Yeah.
That's a weird one. No, synchronicities.
And the sun and the star.
And the sun and the star. Wow. It's turning into an episode of Hellier. The article was read by Kelvin Mackenzie, and he saw something in this article.
Sure he did.
He was a good editor for what he did. He was actually pretty brilliant. And he said, I think his words were, this one's got legs, which means that it'll run and run and run. And it did.
Yeah.
So much so, in fact, that they had to hold a bonfire.
Uh-huh.
This is from David Clark's write-up. David Clark is a folklorist from the UK who's done a lot of really great work. He has done good research on the Crying Boy. He said Mackenzie's stroke of genius was to spot the potential of the story buried in routine copy from a regional news agency. He announced confidently to his staff, this one's got legs, phrase for a story that would run and run. So we know
The article did have the word cursed in the
it did.
headline.
It did.
Which is pretty notable.
I guess that's true. They did make some of their own leaps.
Sure.
But it's a good story, you know? So these news editors,
sure.
they knew what was going on,
Yeah.
but it was really The Sun, a much bigger publication. Kelvin Mackenzie was like, this has got the juice.
It's got
We're gonna
the
do it.
juice.
I mean, it was like the #1 paper in the UK, at least the #1 tabloid
Yeah.
at that point, with a lot of headlines that were. It's like a weird mix between like People magazine and the Weekly World News.
Yeah.
Sort of a combo of that.
Kind of like a rag mag. Like it's you know what it is? It's beach trash. It's what you read when you're on the beach or when you're sitting at the airport.
There was a bit of a newspaper rivalry, like a tabloid rivalry that was going on at that time period. And they were just upping the ante with more sensational stories, back and forth with all of these different ones. He says the tabloid, already known for its outlandish headlines, was in a readership war with the competitor, the Daily Star. And each paper was one-upping each other with
another Star.
Downright unbelievable stories.
Yeah.
The Star and the Sun and Kelvin.
They were very smart to put themselves at the center of it too, and then have a bonfire where they've got people sending them things. It's like the whole thing was like a kind of perfect moment, and I'm sure that in England in 1985, every single person was talking about, specifically in Northern England, everyone was talking about these paintings and whether or not they were going to cause fires. It was probably a big deal.
It's interactive.
It is very interactive. There's a call to action.
They didn't just want to report the news. They wanted to be a part of it, is what they said. Right? So they did it.
They did it. You know what's funny? There is another funny thing that happens, though. We're being skeptical now. A lot of people who were skeptics about this curse end up becoming believers, including Kelvin Mackenzie himself. The editor of The Sun, he was interviewed not terribly long ago, and they were asking him about the Crying Boy, and they brought a bunch of Crying Boy paintings to his home to set up for this interview.
Yeah, he was not into it at all.
Refused to let him in the house.
I think he said that he would do an interview, but it would have to be on the front porch.
Have to be on the porch.
None of the paintings were allowed to come inside.
They tried to do it when he was the editor, too. People would consistently bring him these paintings.
Yeah.
But he would not let them be hung up in the office because he started to believe that the paintings were actually cursed.
Yeah.
So maybe the bonfire, maybe it was a stunt, but maybe he actually kind of believed in what he was doing.
I mean, here's the thing. Like with anything, I'm sure seeing enough people probably would make you a little bit. I mean, it makes me nervous.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
I think there's good reason to be. We don't exactly know where these things came from.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not, and in saying that, I'm not saying I believe these paintings are causing fires indefinitely. I'm just saying it's creepy. It's a creepy story. It's really weird.
Kind of sounds like you're saying you believe that they could be cursed.
I don't want them to be. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's fair. We don't mean to throw cold water on a really cool legend, but I think that there's other elements of this mystery that are stranger, including the fact that we don't really know anything about the artist. The artist, the mysterious Giovanni Bragolin, doesn't exist. That's not his real name. In fact, he may have had several names. This guy is a humongous mystery. There's barely even any photos of this guy floating around on the internet. We're going to tell you some of the details that we've been able to find about this guy, but there's not many. This is the real mystery of the Crying Boy. Why did this man decide he needed a pseudonym to paint these paintings? Who was he? Why did he paint them? Where did he go? Keelin, you've been digging in on this mystery man. Who in the world is Giovanni Bragolin?
Most likely his real name is Bruno Amadeo. It's very frustrating trying to find anything out about this guy, because we don't know if any of this is true.
Yeah, because a lot of I've saw some of the websites that you were looking at to try and find this information, and they're like crazy. There's one of them that's
weird.
like, isn't it French? There's a weird French Weebly website.
Oh, it's like a fan
right
website. Yeah.
Look at this. And this is like one of the only websites out there that has any real information about
So
this guy.
scary.
And some French person who runs this website animated these images.
I like the flames.
Oh my God. Look at this. This is like a ghost hunting website circa 1999.
Yeah, so like this website, it makes a bunch of claims about this artist. There's no like citations. Like I don't know where they're getting this information, but these are the things that they are claiming.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
65. It says he painted 65.
He has a collection on here of people who own the painting.
that's really good.
Can we please take a photo to be in this
Yeah, send it in.
gallery? Oh, these are great.
Oh, wow.
Like Putin's got one.
Prominently behind him also.
This is the thing, though. It's got all of this like serious information, and then there's these photoshopped images of like Putin having a crying boy.
Man.
There's one of George Bush in here too somewhere.
Oh my God, who's the guy dressed as a
Looks like a penguin.
I know.
penguin? The Penguin Man?
I want you guys on this website so bad. There he is.
There's a
There he
George
is.
Bush.
There's a perfect spot for us
Wow.
right there.
Right there.
here.
It's like they're waiting for us.
Some of those look real, though.
I think a
Yeah.
lot of them are.
Yeah.
It looks like there's some like clips from movies and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
But
And-
it's weird because that's one of the primary sources of any information about this guy, and you don't know how accurate it is.
And Keelin had translated there was
Yeah,
a
a
couple
couple-
of wiki pages.
Yeah, Wikipedia pages. They're in Spanish and Portuguese.
Yeah.
One of them, I think both of them in Spanish and Portuguese, they say that he was born in Italy in 1911, and he was in World War II on the Italian side. Oh no!
For those of you who aren't history buffs, that's the wrong side.
That's the bad one.
Oh man.
And so potentially like the suffering of children that he
Oh,
witnessed in World War II influenced his artistic direction,
Oh my goodness.
which is a real bummer of
Yeah.
an origin story.
Trying to say something or get something out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Potentially he was also embarrassed by them, and
Gee, why?
I don't know. And so that's why he was using a different name other than Bruno, because he didn't particularly like that those were the things that he painted that got very popular.
Sure.
Interesting.
I guess I get that.
The speculation that he was like harming the kids that were modeling these pictures are
Right.
it's just speculation. There's
Sure.
no real evidence that ever happened. I mean, it's who knows if there even were models.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like I said, we were talking yesterday, like if you look at these kids and you take away the tears, they don't really look like they're crying.
Mm.
That's true.
Mhm.
That's
a lot of them
actually
just
true.
kind of look like sad.
They're kind of like
kids.
bummed out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Which is still
Bored.
kind of weird.
yeah, it's still weird.
There's a couple pictures of him, though.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
take a look.
There he
There he is.
Painting away.
Wow. He just looks like an
Just
old
some
man.
old guy.
He definitely had a style. I mean, it's, it's
There's
easy
a picture of him up here
Oh,
too.
yeah.
With a
Oh,
cow.
with a cow.
to. Is that the
all
target
connected.
cow?
the target cow.
I think
Did
what-
he paint the target cow too, or photograph the target?
That's
cow?
what he's been up to. He he just looks like a nice old man
Who
who
was
is
potentially
hiding a Nazi.
possibly a Nazi.
Oh God! Allegedly,
Allegedly.
we don't know for sure.
There he is.
There he is. Wow.
Because we kind of tell that he did it because there's pictures of him painting.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So it's like this guy is definitely the one who painted these paintings. It's just there's no biography about this guy.
Yeah.
It's that no one really knows who he was, what he was up to, what he did afterward. There's just a lot of speculation on the internet.
And he had such an effect on the cultural psyche of an
Mhm.
entire country to the point where we're still talking about this today. But the bigger mystery is who that guy was.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because the Weebly website has like a whole list of like FAQs,
Yeah.
and they directly denounce some of the other stories.
Mhm.
I think the one that they directly say is not real is the one about Don Bonillo.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't they say like directly that's not true? There's also one of the other things that makes it harder to figure out who this person is there are other artists who apparently
Mhm.
do crying children paintings.
Oh, so it became like a genre after that. Like people were like, I'm really into crying kid.
Yeah.
That's
there
so
was
weird.
a Scottish artist, a woman who I forget her name right now. But she had her own like series. It was titled like Childhood, which to me somehow when you put a name to the series, that like makes it less weird.
Yeah.
That's right. There was no series name for the Crying
He was
Boy.
just doing them.
Yeah. That's strange. I don't know. There's something I like the idea that there was some sort of a guilt that this guy was trying to get out by putting it on canvas and painting these and
Loss of innocence. Kind of
exactly. And didn't anticipate that people would actually like them as much as they did. So he's like selling tons of these. It's really strange. I mean, when I look at eBay, even now, I was looking at it the other night. Did you see what Crying Boy paintings were up? There were a bunch, but there's also like Crying Boy, like macrame that was done based on those. There are numerous other people who are painting like faux Crying Boys. You can even get them on like, I kid you not, a Crying Boy pillow.
Oh my god!
If you want to cuddle the
You
crying,
want to cuddle with the Crying Boy?
Oh my god!
This guy started something really strange. There's probably a good chance that some of the listeners have had encounters with these paintings. You know, whether they've been to a paranormal museum and seen one, maybe they've been to our museum and seen one. Maybe they owned one. Maybe their parents owned one. Maybe they've seen one at a thrift store. You know, they're out there. So let's talk a little bit of theory.
If these objects are somehow affecting buildings in a negative way, there is a way that you can flip it and say that, well, maybe sometimes they're affecting them in a positive way. There was that old legend that the tears are putting the fire out or something like that. But there's other legends that were also expressed through this idea too. People started to say later on, well, if you treat the painting well, then it's going to be good luck for you.
So you're right, Dana.
Yeah, just spinning it. Like, here's the thing. It's like with everything we're always talking about is if you empower yourself, you change your mind about it. Maybe it'll change its energy. Maybe it'll change the way that you interact with it. So why couldn't it be a positive good luck thing instead of a bad luck thing?
And there was an idea that if you put a crying girl painting near a crying boy painting, that it could at least negate it out.
Oh, like cancel out
it just balances it.
So you have a crying girl painting as well.
It's true. Maybe we'll have to mount the Crying Girl right next to the Crying Boy.
See if it brings us good luck.
I mean, I like the idea of approaching these things differently, or maybe not feeding into the negativity. A really good, really good example of that. Go back and watch the Dybbuk Box episode that we did.
Yeah.
Where we talked about how there is an opposite to a Dybbuk. Dybbuk boxes aren't real, but maybe this curse isn't real. Maybe it's just how you decide to approach this curse. Is it a curse, or is it something? There's just something genuinely weird and paranormal about the fact that these were mass produced and people have experienced weird stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't have to be a bad thing if you don't want it to be.
Yeah, and maybe a good way of thinking about it too is you had a kind of moment that happened in northern England that caused everyone to pay attention to it. And the thing is, the sun is telling people, no, this is a negative thing.
Yeah.
So you've got tons and tons of people immediately thinking, oh, well, this is a bad thing. And it's not necessarily that it's a bad thing, but that was the narrative that was being pushed, right? So just change your mind about it. Maybe it's not a bad thing. Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe they aren't bad.
Does it make you nervous that
I'm trying to convince myself is what's happening.
that
right
we're
now.
highlighting this story again? It hasn't been highlighted in a while.
It made me nervous at first.
Yeah.
I think talking through it, I'm a little bit less nervous about it. And it's, again, my nerves came from the fact that it's something that I am super familiar with in terms of like, it was a scary thing that I knew about when I was 10.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But I think talking through it now, I'm actually a little bit more fascinated with it because it was this really genuinely large scale experiment.
Yeah.
It was a large scale, weird kind of experiment.
Yeah.
And it was very strange and weird things happened. And there's a lot of unanswered questions. In fact, I think most, if not all of the questions have not been answered. We don't know why or who or what or when. Like, we have no idea. But we know that thousands and thousands of people in a small area of England were experiencing weird things because they were being told that weird things would happen around them.
Yeah.
So that's a weird experiment, maybe an unintentional one, but still kind of fascinating.
We talk a lot about the responsibility of storytellers and the responsibility to be careful about how you tell stories. And I don't think there's a whole lot of that responsibility in the paranormal world because it's all an emphasis on like what can we make as scary as possible, which is why we've got a race to the bottom these days when it comes to paranormal media where everything's a demon, everything's a curse. There are other ways of looking at this. It doesn't always have to be a negative thing, but the way that these things are portrayed in such a sensational way, of course it's going to be told that way. The problem is, like you said, when people start to hear that and then they believe it. We were talking a little bit earlier about curses, how curses start, and how I think the easiest way to start a curse is literally to tell someone they're cursed. That's it. You just tell them. And the Sun told like 60,000 people.
Yeah, every person who had this incredibly popular series of paintings in their houses.
They told them they were cursed.
Yeah.
If you pay attention, they tell this story and then they realize what they've done.
Yeah.
And they have to go,
and they're like, oops.
oh, how do we fix this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a thing called the nocebo effect. We're familiar with the placebo effect, which is, during drug trials, some people get the real drug. Other people get a sugar pill. Sometimes those people get the sugar pill. And in fact, more than sometimes, a lot of the time, just being told, hey, this is going to fix your problem. It does. It works. There's also a negative side to that, which is the nocebo effect, where people expect bad things to happen so much from something that it actually does manifest. It is kind of a scientific... It's like a scientific way of explaining what a curse is when you really think about it. Yeah. The nocebo.
Yeah.
So we should be careful about how we tell these stories. And then some stories really just lend themselves to these types of interpretations. One of the funniest things Connor said the other day when we were talking about this, you made a comparison to the crying boy and a painting of a bowl of fruit. Right. Do you remember this?
Yeah, it's if there were 50,000 paintings of bowls of fruit and all these prints that were in the UK and fires burned the houses down and they survived, it would not be noted. It's not a notable or striking image.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But these are.
Yeah.
And so I bet you there are, in terms of paintings that survive fire, there's probably a whole lot more Star Wars posters that have survived fires.
Oh my God.
Just because of the number.
Yeah.
But they're not noted.
Yeah.
But these things are. And so there's something to that. What, in my mind, and this is sort of like a leading question theory idea, is the question is, okay, if we're saying, no, that's not what's happening, these paintings have a curse or something like that.
Right.
There's a few different outlets for that I think need to be specified. And it's hard to specify.
Yeah.
In my mind, the most powerful idea, and this is sort of the same philosophical idea of a tree falling in the forest. The most powerful thing that would happen is if the crying boy is in a completely abandoned, empty home, sitting there, and nobody is aware of its existence in that home, and that home catches fire inexplicably.
Yeah.
That would be something that would be really interesting. But let's say, no, that's not what's happening. It's actually human agents that are siphoning this idea of fires into these paintings.
Yeah.
So the question is, does the order have to go in order for it to, quote unquote, work from the painting to the mind of the owner to then a fire? Or what if you're somebody who owns the painting, but you don't subscribe to the Sun and you never heard about this?
It ain't in your mind.
But it's in a ton of other people's minds.
Right.
So does it still work if it goes from the painting hanging on the unknowing person's wall, the idea of the painting, but is there in the mind of the masses of everybody around them, their neighbors, to the fire? Does it still work?
Yeah, like
you
what's
know?
the route that it's taking?
Well, I think that depends on two things. I think that depends on whether or not you believe in something like a collective consciousness or like the mass consciousness, and you believe in something like psychokinesis or pyrokinesis, to use Stephen King's invention. Let's just go back to the Dybbuk Box episode. If you haven't listened to the Dybbuk Box episode, you should definitely check it out because it really dovetails nicely into what we're talking about right now. We know Dybbuk boxes aren't real. We can definitively say there's no such thing. They're completely made up. The guy who made them up came out and admitted it. They don't exist. And yet, so many people have had negative experiences around things that have been called Dybbuk boxes explicitly because of the stories that have been told about these things. They go to Zak Bagans' museum. They see it. There's not a single inkling that this thing isn't real. And they're told this can hurt you. And they believe it. And some people, whether it's psychosomatic or not, are hurt by it. We've experienced negative feelings and negativity from a fake Dybbuk box that was in our possession for a while. Our friends did too. There's a responsibility that we have when we're telling these stories to question them before we tell them. Because there's power in storytelling. These things become real. If you believe in a collective unconscious, these things are floating around out there. And I think that as people who believe in the existence of paranormal forces, of paranormal phenomena, but are willing to say, like, we don't know exactly how it works. We don't know exactly what these things are. We don't jump to conclusions. But as people who believe in paranormal phenomena, we should be extra careful about the weight that we put on these stories. Specifically speaking definitively. These newspapers said there was a curse on these things. They told everyone that. Even today, Zak Bagans' show, they talk about Don Benio as if he was a real boy, that was a definitive thing. Is it bad research? Is it intentionally making something more extreme than it needs to be to scare people more? I don't know. All I know is that I think the human mind is far more powerful than we give it credit for. And I think that there is some sort of a weird collective unconscious that we are tapped into. And when enough people think that something is dangerous, maybe it can become dangerous. And that's why the crying boy is a haunted object.
The Haunted Objects podcast is hosted by Greg and Dana Newkirk, produced by Connor J. Randall, with photography directed by Carl Pfeiffer, and features exclusive artifacts from the Newkirk Museum of the Paranormal. To learn more about the artifacts featured in this episode, take part in live interactive experiments, and enjoy exclusive Haunted Objects content, become a museum member at patreon.com/paramuseum. This has been a Planet Weird production.
One of the most common misconceptions, it turns out.
Do it with a Cockney accent.
One of the most common misconceptions, it turns out.
No, don't do it. Don't do it. It's so gross. Don't.
Is that the sun is fucking minging.
You die.
Suck your dad.
Right in the sun.
Where's my money?
Fucking money. Okay.
It's another solar system paper, but it's not the sun.
Yeah, baby.
Sheffield Star.
They're both balls of fire.
Yeah, they're
true.
both.
That's true.
Right.
Whoa!
Whoa!